Hello, folks. I'm back. I am back. Can everyone can hear me? Yes? Yes? Okay. Hello again. I know I wasn't gone for terribly long. I feel kind of inspired. Someone, I can't remember who it was, mentioned the Prageru videos, and it got me inspired. I haven't seen almost all of them. I've only seen one, and I was horrified. So, turn it up. You guys need me to turn it up a bit? Let me do that. Let me turn it up a bit. Boo boo boo. Okay. Uh. Mm-mm-mm. Turn it up a little bit. Okay, is that better? Is that a little bit better? I did turn it up a little bit. There we go. Think that's better. Sounds better to me. Uh. Okay, max gains. I think I did it. I did max the gain. Well, I didn't max it. I got very close to maxing it. All right, is that better, folks? Okay, let me see who we have in chat here. First of all, I need to thank, I think without a question, Demosthenes with their $50 dono. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, really. Welcome to the chat, by the way. I don't think I've seen you in here before. Thank you for that. That just blew my mind. Thank you for that, really. Largest super chat I've gotten. Thank you very much. We will have a 5 super chats, folks, and I'll put on the Jester hat. That counts as 1, so we only need 4 more. Um, Okay. Let me see here, folks, who's here. We got Dubois. Dubois. Hello, Dubois. We also got Goose. Hello, Goose. Yes, I am going live again. Like I said, I felt inspired after talking about the Prageru and slavery stuff, or after someone mentioned the Prageru stuff, and we talked about slavery. I'm. This is going to be interesting. I've only heard horror stories of Prageru. Um, okay. Jay Shadow. Jay Shadow. Hello, Jay Shadow. Who else we got here? We got Alyssa, fantastic. Hello, Alyssa. Yeah, big wow on that. Don't know. That's very, very nice of them. Macy, hello, Macy again. Lee Lane. Lee Lane, is this a better time? Well, I guess no, you're on the East Coast. Never mind. I'm doing this a bit this one later, folks, for folks on the West Coast. In case they need, just try a different time. Okay, Dubois, I love Grand Theft Auto. I got to tell you that. Just throwing that out there. Um, Hello, yeah, Lost Legacy is here. Hello, Lost Legacy. Another one of the regulars here. Okay. By the way, I'll take your advice, folks. I'll do the self-promotion stuff right before I start reacting, so that it'll make it easier to edit when I upload it to YouTube. Thank you for that assistance there. The Lost Legacy says, by the way, I also love Diablo 2, J Shadow. But anyway, the Lost Legacy says the replacing NPR with Prageru and also using their dumbass educational content. Yeah, I am kind of terrified about what I'm about to watch. I've only ever seen one PragerU video that was made for children about Christopher Columbus. I have not watched any of their other stuff. And I've made a playlist here, and I'm suspecting anyway. Hey Tiago, hey again, another regular now here. Here we go again without the reaction that I paid for. Eventually, Tiago, patience, Tiago. Okay. All right. Macon's here. Hello, Macon. Druzilla back. Uh, I got you, Demosthenes. Hopefully, this is this a better time for you over there, wherever you may be. That's why I'm kind of doing this now to see if we can get right, Jay Shadow. Okay, I love Diablo 2. Alyssa, I think you might be right there. Uh, you know what? I will put on the Jester hat, just because of the $50 dono, and then we can restart it, and then I'll put on the collar if we get to if we get 5 more. Okay, so where's my Jester hat? I do think that's worthy of the Jester hat. Thank you very much, Demosthenes, for that. Okay. There we go. We'll start off strong, folks. Start off strong. Okay. Um, there we go. Okay. Woo. All right. Well, first of all, Jay Shadow, I like the Necromancer a lot. I love playing the Necromancer. Love playing as the Necromancer. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Demosthenes. Really, great name, by the way. Very good Greek name. Um, okay. Oh, I got you. I got you. Thank you, Tiago. You're the best, Tiago. Okay, Tiago has now gotten us one step closer to me putting on the collar. Tiago says, uh, where is the reaction I paid for? I'm from Portugal. It's almost midnight. Also, donate for the cult, everyone. Thank you, Tiago, again for helping promote me. Okay. Yeah, I agree. The Lost Legacy. We should call the chat the Jester's Court. I might want to rephrase that though, because a court makes it sound like I'm the royalty. I don't know, maybe we call it the Jester's, I don't know. We could call it Jester's Court. Not a cult. Thank you, Macy. Thank you, Macy. Macy, Demosthenes beat you this time. Normally you're the first super chat. Thank you though thank you very much for that, Macy. Macy says not a cult. Correct. We're not a cult, okay? Cult bad. All right. Yeah, Jester's Council. Yeah, that one might be a better one. Okay. We will come up with something. I know, Macy. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm out. Drusilla, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So all right. So here's the deal, folks. Uh I've gotten a lot of feedback about how I do these sort of these segments. One of the bits of feedback I got was that when I cut the vid and I take out clips and upload them on YouTube, me chatting too much with chat can be disruptive for people who watch on YouTube. So what I'm gonna be doing, okay, is first of all, while I'm reacting to one of these videos, they're pretty short. I think they're like 5 minutes or so. I will avoid chatting with chat, and then I will go to the comments after the video, and then I can cut out the chat portion and upload just the part where I'm reacting, if that makes sense. So please, send chats throughout the video, and I will get to them right after I'm done reacting to each of the Prageru videos. Tiago, thank you. Thank you very much. Community for legal reasons. That's a good way. Okay, yeah, we're a community. We're not a cult, okay? Just like, just like Heaven's Gate was a community, all right? Okay, thank you, Tiago, of course. We only need 2 more super chats and I will put on the collar. We're getting very close already. Jeez. Okay. So, what we're going to be doing, folks, is today I talked about slavery a bit in my earlier um I'll definitely do some Reels Lost Legacy. I'm trying to get better at that. Yeah, hopefully I'm going to spend a lot of time tomorrow cutting up some of my videos. So, yeah. Okay. So, PragerU. Jesterhood of the Traveling Pants, Jay Shadow. Okay, so PragerU, basically propaganda. Okay, I have only seen one video of theirs. It was a video for children about Christopher Columbus, and I remember it horrified me. I have not watched any of their other videos. I've just heard horror stories from teachers and such. Um, I think I may be avoiding it because of the blood pressure issue might cause me. But, well, I've made a little playlist here. Think of about 4 or 5, PragerU videos, and we're gonna go through one by one, and we're gonna see what the propaganda is. PragerU, funded by Dennis Prager, an elite, a very wealthy conservative guy. And the Trump administration has sort of been talking about replacing a lot of PBS programming basically with PragerU, which is, like I said, propaganda and very bad history. And it's also PragerU videos is also being massively promoted in red states to be used in schools. Um, and speaking of Columbus, I just noticed a couple people mentioned Columbus. I have some documents prepared because I have a feeling I'm going to need to be quoting from them when we watch the Columbus one, which is the second video in this. Because I have read his journals and I will read you quotes from his journals because I'm suspecting they're going to make him appear to be a great guy. So be on the lookout for that fresh new horror you'll have to listen to. Um, yeah, Columbus horrible, absolutely horrible, Jay Shadow. Okay. So on that note, folks, let's get into it. I'm gonna again. I will do a brief promotion before it, for the sake of the clips later. Okay, and then while I'm watching it, I will avoid responding to comments. But I do love doing it. It kind of reminds me that makes me feel like I'm in a classroom when I respond right away. But I'll try to avoid doing that. Okay, so let's get into this. There we go. Okay. Uh, I'm hoping everyone can hear me and see me, etc. Okay, and let me make sure I have the application. Let's see here. All right, short history of slavery. There we go. Okay. Okay. The first one is a short history of slavery. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Oof. Okay. So, again, folks, I'll do a little bit of a promotion. Hey, thank you, Jay Dubois, for the donation. One away now, from me putting on the collar. If I get the last one while I am doing the stream, I will wait till while I'm doing the reaction, I'll wait till right after that video, just to warn you. But thank you. Um, yeah, you're right, Tiago. He did try to convince Portugal before he convinced Spain, and the Portuguese were like, nah. So, good call. Okay. All right. Oh, goodness. Okay, here we go. First, again, I'm gonna do my little Oh, ooh, are we there? Yeah, we're there. Good, thank you, Dubois. Okay. Okay, good. This is perfect timing. I will then put on the collar before I even start the video, which is perfect. Okay. All right. Oh, there we go. By the way, folks, thank you very much, Dubois. Thank you for that. We've already got the jester collar and the hat on. If we do 5 more, I will put on makeup and I will complete the jester look. 5 more here. Let me. I'm glad that happened before I started, though. Uh, all right. So here, 3 hours. Makeup. Uh, just to complete the jester look. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I think it's maybe like the second fastest time we've gone to that. All right. Okay, guys. So let me do my little your plan did work, Dubois. Macy Schroeder. So it like a cringe. um, uh, so the makeup like do the makeup like oh yeah, we could do it like that, okay? Yeah, that's true. Okay, guys. All right. So let me do my little intro here so it makes it easier for me later when I do the clipping. I'm also eating some cereal, so hopefully that won't be too distracting. Okay. Let's see what fresh horrors await us. Okay. So, folks, well, let me finish chewing on this so I don't embarrass myself. Okay. Um, is anyone in here from the West Coast, by the way, who wouldn't normally be able to watch? Okay. All right. So, folks, if you like my content, you can go to my YouTube page and click the join button. And for as little as 99 cents a month, you can become a member. If you're a member, you get access to beautiful little emojis on live stream. And you will also get a little Jester hat next to your name. You can also support me on Patreon for only $5 a month, uh, which would be very helpful. It's helping me upgrade my equipment and such. All right. And on that note, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be watching some Prageru videos. I'm going to be reacting to them. Prageru is pretty horrifying. It's basically propaganda. I've only heard negative things about it. I've only ever seen one Prageru video, however, so this will be an interesting experience. I will try my best to give commentary to these videos. The first video we're looking at here is called A Short History of Slavery, and it's 5 minutes long. So let's take a look and see what happens. All right, folks, let's begin.
And now for a brief history.
Okay, already we have Candace Owens. That kind of discredits it to begin with, doesn't it? And by the way, let's not hide the fact that choosing a black woman to do this video is kind of gross. Um, so anyway, let's continue with that.
Of slavery. Here's the first thing you need to know. Slavery was not invented by white people.
Um, did did anyone ever say that? I've never heard a person say that slavery was invented by white people. Uh, it kinda seems like there might be a bias here. Call me crazy. I feel like there might be a bit of a bias here. I'm trying to, some sort of commentary. Okay.
Did not start in 1619 when the first slaves came to Jamestown. It existed before then. It did not start
Yeah.
in 1492 when Columbus discovered the New World. In fact,
I'm sorry, who's claiming that? Who is claiming that that's when slavery started? Uh, okay.
when the intrepid explorer landed in the Bahamas, the native Taino tribe hoped that he would help them defeat their aggressive neighbors.
Nope. Mm-mm. Nope, 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 nope. I'll be reacting to a Columbus video next, so I won't go too much into that. The point here is that's not true. Maybe they did a bit, but that was not the first thing that happened when he met the Taino. And that's kind of gross. Yeah. You know what? Okay, so let's just continue.
The Caribs. The Caribs enslaved the Taino and, on occasion,
Ah, that's funny. You know the other person who enslaved the Taino? Columbus. Also, there's we don't have much evidence that the Caribs actually did practice cannibalism. That may have been a European invention. So there's that issue too.
served them for dinner. Slavery existed in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. The word slave act
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of weird. It basically existed everywhere. I don't know why she limited it to those places. It absolutely did exist in those places. It also existed in Europe. It existed in South America. It existed everywhere. But she seems to be trying to make a point by only talking about, places where there are non-white people. Anyway, okay, so here we go.
Actually comes from the Slavs of Eastern Europe. Millions
Oh my God. See, this is going to take forever. This is a lot. Okay, first of all, that is a myth. The historical evidence on this is scant. We don't know that that's where the word slave came from. We don't know if it came from the Slavs, maybe, but that is a historical debate. And obviously, she has a commentary here. She's trying to equate slavery with white people being enslaved. Um, okay, but that's not true. That's debated.
of them, all white by the way, were captured and enslaved by Muslims in the ninth
Hmm.
century and later by the Ottoman Turks.
Hmm. Okay, there is some truth to that, in that the Islamic empires did, in fact, use slavery. So did the Europeans. So did the Romans. It was interesting. She only mentions the Ottomans. I wonder why. Why do we think she wants to emphasize what the Muslims were doing and ignore what Europeans were doing? Hmm.
Slavery existed when the Roman Empire controlled the Mediterranean and most of Europe from the 1st through the 5th centuries. Slavery existed when Alexander the Great conquered Persia in the 4th century.
Notice, though, she's not saying who did the enslaving. She said that slavery existed when the Roman Empire was around. She is not saying that it was the Romans doing the enslaving. Same thing with Alexander the Great. She is not saying that it was Alexander the Great or the white Greeks who did that. Okay, she's just saying it existed.
BC. It was so common that Aristotle simply considered it natural. The slave master model was just how the world operated in the great philosopher's day. Slavery existed during the time of the ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago. As
Um,
far back as we can go in human history, we find slavery.
yeah.
As renowned historian John Steele Gordon notes from time immemorial, slaves were a major item of commerce.
Yep.
As much as a third of the population of the ancient world was enslaved.
Yep.
Here's the second thing you need to know. White people were the first to formally put an end to slavery.
Okay. Uh. mm, I don't even know what to say about that. This is bad framing. There were various liberation movements for slaves. The point here is that the framing, we all see what she's trying to go with, right? She's trying to make it, she's trying to defend, for some reason, white people. Okay. So there are other times in history where slaves have been freed that by non-white people. Um, So it's not true, but the framing here, I think we can all see where she's going with this.
In 1833, Britain was the first country in the history of the world to pass a Slavery Abolition Act. They were quickly followed by France, who in 1848
Okay.
abolished slavery in her many colonies. Then, of course,
Mhm.
came the 13th Amendment in the United States Constitution. After
Okay, the 13th Amendment did end chattel slavery. However, if you read it, folks, it says at the end of the 13th Amendment that slavery is illegal except as punishment for a crime. So it did not completely outlaw slavery. It allowed slavery in prisons, which is where you get the idea of chain gangs. And by the way, this prompted especially southern states to do everything they could to criminalize blackness so that they could put as many black Americans in prison as possible and continue using them as slaves. So it is an oversimplification to say that slavery completely ended because of the 13th Amendment. It absolutely did end mass chattel slavery, but again, oversimplification there by all accounts.
centuries of human slavery, white men led the world in putting an end to the
Oh, it's so gross, all this weird talk of white men and stuff.
abhorrent practice. That includes the 300,000 Union soldiers, overwhelmingly white, who died.
Why does she have to emphasize that they were overwhelmingly white? There were also black soldiers who fought extremely bravely, and as a matter of fact, I don't want to say they fought harder than the white soldiers, but they had something that they were actually fighting. Like they were really fighting for liberation and things like that. I don't know what. Anyway,
During the Civil War. Now, am I saying that this makes white people better than anyone else? Of course not. My purpose here is to simply tell the truth, and the truth is that human history is complicated. No one, regardless of skin color, stands guiltless. Yet today,
Again, okay, so yeah, that's technically true. I will say the type of slavery that was done in the New World was pretty unique because it was not, for example, there was slavery going on in Africa, but it was typically for a limited amount of time, and you'd be freed later. Chattel slavery was specifically ended up becoming specifically racial. And you would, if your mother was a slave, you would be born into slavery. That was not something that was, as common around the world, so it almost was more brutal in a lot of ways. Obviously, I'm kind of splitting hairs here, no slavery is good, but yeah.
we are never told to consider the murderous Persian Empire or the cannibalism of indigenous tribes of North and South America or the heinous
Okay, yeah, obviously she's talking about all these brown people that she is now trying to demonize, talking about the Persians, the Romans, by the way, extremely brutal people. The word decimation, which is a word in English we typically use when we're talking about mass destruction, actually comes from Latin, and it was when Romans would line up every male in a town and kill every 10th male in order to bring that town to obedience if they weren't obedient to Rome. So, I mean, again, all ancient empires were pretty brutal. Most empires are very brutal. It doesn't matter what the skin color of those people were. So to handpick the people in North and South America and the Persians seems like a deliberate choice. Okay.
actions under the imperialistic Muslim, Chinese, Mongol, or Japanese empires, to name just a few. Instead, we're told that slavery is a white phenomenon.
I've never heard that. I've never heard anyone say that slavery is a white phenomenon ever. Never once. And I've been a teacher for years.
And like all persistent lies, this lie spawns a bunch of other lies. On social media, I come across extraordinary depictions about how Africans lived like pharaohs before Europeans came and laid waste to their paradise.
So there's actually some truth to that. Not definitely not all places in Africa, but there were actually black pharaohs. There were the Egyptians had an interesting idea of race. Like they didn't really care what your skin color was, as long as you wore makeup and had a certain style, you could be Egyptian. So yeah, there were vast kingdoms and civilizations in Africa where Africans did in fact live in quite abundance in luxury and such. Not everywhere, but yeah.
I wish any of this were true, but it's not. It's a fantasy. The
Nope.
truth
Not a
is that
fantasy.
Africans were sold into slavery by other black Africans, and in many cases, sold for items as trivial as gin and mirrors. Whites didn't go into
So, okay, there's multiple problems with this. There is some truth to that. There was slavery going on in West Africa, and I will say though, the incentive for different groups in Africa enslave each other was the fact that they could then sell those enslaved people to Europeans. So, without that incentive, there would not nearly have been as much enslaving going on in West Africa. Um, so that's just nonsense, okay? Also, a lot of the leaders of these groups in Africa that were doing trade with the Europeans, it partially protected their own hides because if they were to hand over slaves to the Europeans typically wouldn't go after them then to take them as slaves, if that makes sense. Um, so that again, massive oversimplification. Also, the slavery that was going on in West Africa was not for life, and it was not inheritable. So you wouldn't like pass it on to your child, like was what would happen in the New World. Um, okay.
the interior and round up the natives. They waited on the coast for their black partners to bring them black bodies. The stark reality is that our lives had very little value to our ancestors. Here's the third
It's
thing you need
gross.
to know. If you think slavery is a relic of the past, you're wrong. There are some 700,000 slaves in Africa today, right now. That's
But folks, there are slaves in America today. Sex trafficking is a form of slavery. I mean, there's slaves all over the place. It's one of the biggest global industries is the human trafficking. I don't know. Interesting that she is talking specifically about Africa. I wonder why that might be.
the lowest estimate that I could find. Other sources say there are many more. For context, that's almost twice as many slaves as were ever brought to the United
Okay, I'm sorry. That is funny. So Africa, I can't believe I have to explain this to Candace Owens. I mean, yes, I can. Africa is a continent. It is a massive continent. So to compare the number of slaves on a continent with the number of slaves in one country, the United States, is an asinine comparison to begin with. Um,
States. Child soldiers, human trafficking, forced labor. These are the conditions that currently
oh, this is
exist
gross.
within the same sub Saharan region where the transatlantic slave trade originated.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about that too is the slave trade deeply damaged African societies. Like deeply damaged African societies. It almost did permanent damage with the demographic changes and things like that. A lot of the issues in Africa today can be traced back to the slave trade and the violence it caused, and it did cause mass violence. The slave trade led directly and indirectly to millions of people dying in Africa because of wars over slave trading, because of the demographics, the decrease in demographics of people being taken out of Africa. So maybe she should mention that that the white people who were doing the slave trading are part of the reason why there's still a lot of those issues in Africa today.
African bodies are being sold today like they were sold then. And no, they are not being purchased by any country of white men. In fact, slavery by any
Uh, no, yes, they are. The slavery that still goes on, which is illegal, sex trafficking and stuff, is definitely still being purchased by white men. Jeffrey Epstein, okay. Anyway,
traditional definition is exclusively practiced today within non-white countries.
this is so gross. Nope, not true. Nope, not true at all. Just racism. She's just doing a racist dog whistle here.
But we hear almost nothing about that. Just like we hear nothing about how slavery was universal until good people in Europe and America ended it 2 centuries ago. Why? Because our so called leaders, black and white, wouldn't profit from it. Black victimhood is nothing if not profitable. It allows
Oh, is that the case? Is that the case? I'm going to a black community and ask them if they feel their position of being victims has been profitable for them. Um, Black Americans have less wealth than white Americans. Um, Tons of other stats show that because of the history of slavery and oppression of the black community, they have been economically disadvantaged. That is just a gross lie. Okay.
politicians and funds racial grievance groups. And if black Americans began to view themselves as partners in the American dream, if we embraced the patriotic spirit that holds all men are created equal, the patriotic spirit that is our real heritage, then the race hustlers would soon be out of business.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. The the irony there. She's accusing other people of being race hustlers. Um, what is she doing right now? Uh, no, does she have any sense of like self? What's the term? Does she like? Can she not see what she's doing? Okay.
Who wants that? I'm Candace Owens, author of Blackout for Prager University.
Okay. All right, folks. That's the video. And now we'll go on to a next one. But first, I'm going to look at chat. All right, guys. Let me see what you all have to say here. That was pretty bad. All right. That was really gross. I'm not surprised. I've heard Candace Owens does that a lot, where she uses race and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Goose, Prageru, try not to strawman challenge, right? They failed that challenge, didn't they, Goose? Tiago, yep, the Roman Empire was built on slavery, but that doesn't mean anything for this matter. Yeah, apparently, right? Apparently that wasn't an issue for her. Lost Legacy, nobody simply setting the narrative right off the bat, bringing up things nobody was claiming, 100% straw manning, straw manning, straw manning. Jay Shadow conveniently forgetting Europe, 100%. Yeah, you're right, Lost Legacy. Literally everyone did use it. It's just by the mid 19th century, slavery was already in a way on the way out, we claimed to stand for freedom and rights, but enslaved people. That was the problem, 100%. 100%. Thank you, Oz. Yes, welcome back, Oz. Oz says, "Don't forget to like the stream, fellow revolting people." I support that. We have 15 likes. It would help get people in here. If you guys like the stream, please do so. Druzilla, this sounds like bad excuses. A lot of them. Yep. Just lies. Druzilla, just a bunch of bad excuses and lies. Isn't this point now a red herring fallacy? Yeah, I mean, we could probably, I could turn this into a series of videos about fallacies. There's so many probably going to be in these videos, and with what she was doing. Um, LAX Paint, welcome to the chat. The white people she refers to who put an end to slavery would be considered woke. 100% LAX Paint. 100%. Okay. Thank you for saying so. Okay, Tiago again. Yeah, but we, the white people, also made slavery global. That's a really good point, Tiago. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it was white folks who made it sort of the transatlantic trade, turned it into this massive industry, kind of melded it with capitalism. Yeah, absolutely. Tiago, this is about recent history. The consequences that we have today because of that history, not a competition to see who enslaved more people in history. 100% Tiago, but apparently that's what her goal is here, is to make it about, that. Okay. Yep, absolutely. Drazilis definitely still slaves today. Free Indeed 7. This is all about defending the welcome to chat, by the way, Free Indeed 7. This is all about defending the reputation of white people. 100%. 110%. It's really gross. Yeah, okay. Jay Shadow, as if the Union Army didn't institute a draft because most people didn't care. Yep. Not only did they institute a draft, there were riots because a lot of people had no interest in going off to fight to end slavery. Yeah. Okay. So you're right. Okay. Tiago, why she don't talk about black soldiers in World War II who were almost wiped out for videos, but were fighting against the Nazis. Yep. Yep. You're right, Tiago. Not to mention the black units who fought in the North during the Civil War, very bravely, by the way, and they were segregated, and they always had to have a white commanding officer. But nonetheless, they went and fought because they actually were fighting to end slavery because they knew what they were fighting for. Okay. Jay Shadow. Oh, I'm sorry. Alyssa here. God can't stand her. Hope Macron takes everything from her. Yes. Oh, yeah. Because wasn't she claiming that Macron's wife wasn't actually a woman or something? Some other bullshit that Candace Owens thought of in a fever dream. Jay Shadow, did she basically say we civilize the world as a justification for genocide and slavery? Yeah, real weird take there, Jay Shadow. Yeah, absolutely. That's a very weird take on her end. Hmm. Hmm. Makes you wonder. Jay Shadow, no one has ever said this ever, ever, ever. 100%. Prageru, try not to strawman challenge has failed. Absolutely. Yep, demand produces supply, and that's what happened in West Africa. Europeans were demanding, and the local tribal groups and kingdoms and stuff, they were willing to provide that supply. Um, yeah, you're right, Oz. Like she is an abundance of logical fallacies. It really is talented how she does that. Um, I agree. Don't think she has a lot of good comments here, folks. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Free Indeed. A lot of, actually, matter of fact, most slaves were brought to South American countries like Brazil. It was a relatively small portion that are brought to America. That's not excusing it. That's simply saying that also in the Caribbean, there were tons of slaves brought to the Caribbean. Um, yeah. But again, no one ever lies about that. No one ever says, well, yeah, the United States got most of the slaves, but that's irrelevant, right? It was still brutal and horrific, no matter where it was. Um, okay, yeah. Oh my God, you're right, Alyssa. This is our new school curriculum. It feels like. Um, uh, oh gosh, guys, you got a lot of good comments here. Yeah, you're right, Alan. We legalized slavery within our prison system via free unpaid labor. Absolutely, it still exists today, folks, in our prison. Grace Abrams, Saudi Arabia had legal slavery until 1962. Yeah, there have been a lot of countries. A lot of countries, still had it legal for a very long time, even after the United States ended it and Brazil ended it, etc. Um, okay, exclude. Yeah, that's a crazy word. Long Beach Dragon, hello. Yes, we are back. Gosh, guys, you got a lot of good comments. Yeah, that would actually be a good idea. Is it possible for us to do How would we do that, Oz? Where we have a fallacy counter going on in the stream? I would love that. In the Caribbean, absolutely. One of the reasons there were a lot of enslaved people in the Caribbean is because they're islands, nowhere to run. Okay. Maybe sometime I'll do a stream on the Haitian Revolution, which was an amazing, awesome, badass slave uprising. We could talk about that. Grace Abrams, yeah, you're right, but slavery had been around well before the Islamic empires, well beyond that. Like probably like the Roman Empire, massive slave traders. Tons of other groups did slavery. Just talking about the Islamic portion of this really misses a large portion of it. Okay. Uh, as a Sri Lankan, there's many people who've gone to the Gulf Arab countries to work, and grappled and beaten and treated and not paid. Yeah, that happens everywhere. People come to America and they are groped and beaten and ill-treated and not paid. This is not specific. This is not an issue that is just specific to Islamic countries. Okay. Um, Haiti had to pay the French back, says Luke. Oh, you're right. First, welcome to stream, Luke. Haiti has had to pay the French back for their loss of property over 100 years. Yeah. How fair is that, folks? The French should be paying them for the years of enslavement. Where's my Banana Republic's reaction, Tiago? I'll get there, Tiago. I'll get there, okay? I will eventually cry. Oh, I'm sorry, Tiago. Don't cry, okay? I promise I'll do it eventually. Yeah, you're right. Meow Zord, slavery probably was as old as the concept of debt, almost certainly, okay? And taxes. Yeah, we have, yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys. So again, if we get 5 more super chats, I'll put on some makeup to complete the Jester look. I'm going to go into the next video now. Again, I'm going to have to do my little, if you guys don't mind me doing my little, well, actually, I already did the intro once. I'll just cut out the part with the chat, okay? So let's get on to the next one. Let me do a little intro here. I think the next one is about Columbus. God help us all. After seeing that, God knows what we're going to see in this one. Okay.
He ventured where no other man of his age.
Okay, so let me do a little intro to this one. Okay, so this next video here is called "Celebrating Columbus," and it's a 5-minute video about Christopher Columbus. We'll see where it goes after that first one. I'm highly doubting we're going to see anything that has any brain cells attached to it. I wonder who they're going to have talk about this one. Okay, here we go.
He ventured where no other man of his age dared to go. He saw things no other man of his age had ever seen.
So, okay, off the bat, I love the framing when people say that Columbus ventured places where no one else had gone, even though there were already people living there, right? Were there not already millions of indigenous people living in these areas, but apparently Columbus was the first one there? Furthermore, he wasn't even the first European who made it to the New World. We now know that the Vikings made it to sort of North America earlier, so that's not even true to begin with. Yeah, you're right, Jay Shadow. So false in multiple ways here. Anyway, he saw things no other man of his age had ever seen, thus implying that the millions of people already living in the New World were not human, right? That's kind of what it seems like they're implying.
He discovered a new world. For centuries, he was universally admired as a hero. Now, he's widely considered to be a despoiler of paradise, an enslaver, and a genocidal maniac.
Yeah, based,
I'm
true.
talking, of course, about Christopher Columbus. So which is true? Is he a hero or a villain?
Villain, 100% villain. Even at the time he was viewed as a villain. I'll let him keep talking. Oh, is this, they have Michael Knowles doing this? What kind of expertise does Michael Idiot Knowles have and anything to do with Christopher Columbus?
The truth is complicated, as the truth often is, especially when you have to go back 500 years to find it. But let's try to get as close as we can. Columbus was born in 1451 in the port city of Genoa, Italy. At a time when birth often determined destiny, his origins were entirely unremarkable. His father was a middle-class wool weaver who expected his son to follow the same path. But Columbus had different plans. The age of discovery was dawning. The future belonged to the bold, and the bold went to sea.
So on a side note here, folks, in 1492, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, if you've ever heard that little tune, Spain had just finished its conquests of the Iberian Peninsula and kicked the Muslim empires out of Iberia. Um, and the Spanish crown had essentially funded itself by looting um, uh, Muslim possessions in Spain. And it might not be a coincidence that it was 1492 when they finished conquering Spain, and then suddenly they start looking all over the world for other places they can loot to continue funding the Spanish crown. So it's more than just there are people that were bold that need to go to sea. Well, they were looking for places to loot, to steal from, so that they could bring more booty back to the Spanish crown. Okay.
By the time he turned 30,
Well,
Columbus had sailed
yeah.
to Iceland, Ireland, and Africa. Somewhere on his many voyages, he became obsessed with the idea that there was a westward sea route from Europe to India. But there were no
And why? Why did he want to? They don't mention this. They don't. Why did they want to go to India? Because of the spices, of the wealth, and the possible booty they could get from there to help fund the Spanish crown, etc. Um, yeah, they make it seem like he was just curious. He just wanted to figure out if it was there and go there.
maps to consult, only wild rumors of sea monsters and endless ocean. He put together the 15th century version of a PowerPoint presentation for the King of Portugal, then the world's leading sea power. But the king, heeding the advice of his experts, turned him down. It simply couldn't be done, the experts told the king. It was pure speculation, and an expensive one at that. So Columbus took his plans to Spain. But King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella weren't interested either, at least not at first. Columbus persevered. After 8 years, they finally relented. They gave the explorer 3 small ships. There was a time when every school kid knew their names: the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, and the year in which Columbus set sail, 1492. Except for a
Oh
compass and
God.
the stars, Columbus had virtually no navigation tools at his disposal. He was, to mix metaphors, flying blind. He was heading west. That's about all he knew. Once the ships left the Canary Islands, they were on their own.
Mhm.
His crews stayed loyal
Yep.
for the first week, but by the 3rd week, they had lost their nerve.
Oh,
Columbus, however, never lost his.
yeah. By the way, the reason they lost their nerve is because Columbus was going into the dark, right? They didn't know where they were going, and yeah, his crew members trying to like, is this guy crazy? Like, is there even like, are we just going to die out here? And Columbus was threatening them and such. On a side note, folks, just to give you a taste of Columbus's character, uh, he made a promise that the first person to see land would be granted a reward. All right, the first person on these ships that saw land would be granted a reward. Well, one night, one of these guys was looking out and they saw land, and Columbus hadn't even woken up yet. And after Columbus wakes up and goes on board the ship, that sailor goes up to him and goes, "Hey, I saw land. It was over there." And you know what Columbus does, because he didn't want to have to actually pay out that money? He goes, "Oh, well, I saw it last night actually, so none of you get the money." I know that's a small thing, but that kinda shows you how, his character, okay?
By sheer force of will, he kept his men in line. Finally, after 10 long weeks at sea, on the night of October 11th, Columbus spotted land. He called it San Salvador. Today, we know it as the Bahamas.
Yep.
There, Columbus and his men encountered the Taino tribe. The first encounter between Europe and the Americas went well. The
Nope.
Taino were
Nope. Okay. I'm gonna stop here. I have some quotes. Literally, these are taken from Columbus's journal. This is the first thing he said about the Taino when he met them. And this is not an exaggeration. These are literally direct quotes. Let me pull it up here, folks. And we can you can decide. Oopsie, you guys can decide for yourselves if you think that meeting went well. Here it is. Okay, I'll read to you here. This is from Columbus's journal. Here we go. This is what he said about the Taino. They were very well built, with very handsome bodies and very good faces. They do not carry arms or even know them. They will make excellent slaves. Let's go on to the next one. A little later in the same paragraph, he says the following. With 50 men, they can all be subjugated and made to do whatever is required of them. Okay. A bit later on the side note here, this is a little bit after Columbus met the Taino. He was commenting about how a lot of his men on these ships were starting to want some of the women and the girls, literally children, amongst the Taino. You can guess what they wanted them for. And he said the following. There are plenty of dealers who go about looking for girls. Those aged from 9 to 10 are now in demand. And for all ages, a good price must be paid. I'll continue.
Were curious and helpful. Columbus was emphatic that his crew treat them with kindness and respect.
Yeah, I just read you the quote, folks. This is bullshit.
Lest you think that Columbus stumbled on the Garden of Eden, the islands were also inhabited by the Caribs, a tribe of cannibals for whom, according to Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Sam...
Okay, there's no proof of this. It is possible they did engage in some cannibalism. There were some groups in the New World that did that. Typically, it would only be small bits of flesh after battle and things like that, with the thought of that of like sort of as sort of a terror tactic. But that this, the Europeans love to emphasize cannibalism because it was considered such a taboo in Europe. So we don't have evidence that the Caribs were cannibals, but of course the Europeans emphasize that as a way of making it more justified to enslave them, murder them, etc.
Samuel Eliot Morison, babies were a delicacy, or in Morison's
Oh
words,
God.
a toothsome morsel. Like every place else on Earth, in every time in history, the local peoples were a mixed bag. Some good, some not so good. Upon his return to Spain, word of the Italian explorer's successful voyage quickly spread throughout Europe. A new world had been discovered, and the old world would never be the same.
Okay, they didn't even mention this, so let me give you another quote, folks. I'm going to give you a content warning here. It's not terrible, but here's another quote from Columbus's journal that I put in my document here. I'm sorry, this is not from Columbus's journal. This is from one of his friends, and who was on one of these ships, one of Columbus's ships. Here we go. I captured a very beautiful woman who the Lord Admiral Columbus gave to me. When I had taken her to my cabin, she was naked, as was their custom. I was filled with a desire to take my pleasure with her and attempted to satisfy my desire. She was unwilling, and so treated me with her nails that I wish I had never begun. I then took a piece of rope and whipped her soundly, and she let forth such incredible screams that you would not have believed your ears. Eventually, we came to such terms, I assure you, that you would have thought that she had been brought up in a school for whores. Need I say more? Need I say more? Columbus was a monster, and it's really gross to downplay that.
Columbus was a man meant for the sea. On land, he was easily outmaneuvered and betrayed by professional politicians and bureaucrats. It is on their dubious, self-serving accounts that modern attacks on Columbus's reputation are based. In his own day, these attacks made the explorer's life a misery.
Yeah, as a matter, I told you, even people at the time thought he was disgusting. Anyone curious? Look up Bartholomew de las Casas, who wrote a scathing letter to the Spanish monarchy, basically detailing the crimes of Columbus, and rightfully so. Okay, and yeah, they made his life more difficult. I don't really give a shit. Okay, if it were me, I would have had him beheaded. Okay, that shows how bad he was. That there were people at the time even that were like, "Wow, this guy's a monster."
Columbus was not blameless. He sold natives into slavery. But the explorer did not invent slavery, which was common around the world long before and long after Columbus's time. As for the charge of genocide, there was no genocide. There were atrocities.
As I've said before, folks, there's nothing quite as disgusting as genocide denial. The Taino are basically non-existent anymore. A combination of enslavement, disease, and murder. There are many different groups of Native Americans who no longer exist anymore because of Columbus, the slavery, the murder. It's just factually inaccurate. Every historian would agree it was genocide. It's just a lie.
Atrocities, most occurring after Columbus was dead and gone. There was also widespread intermarriage between the Spaniards and the natives, which eventually led to the people we now call Hispanic or Latino.
Um, Yeah, most of the time those marriages were forced, and by the way, a lot of those children were not from consensual relationships. Um, yeah.
It's unfair to focus only on Columbus's sins. It's also unfair to judge someone who lived 500 years ago by today's standards. His own assessment of his actions is much more revealing. Let those who are fond of blaming and finding fault, while they sit safely at home, ask, why did you not do thus and so? Well, there's a reason why Columbus has so long been celebrated,
Uh,
why so many statues, schools, towns, cities, a national holiday, an Ivy League university, and even a country bear his name. It's this simple fact. When we celebrate Columbus, we celebrate the arrival of Western civilization to the Western Hemisphere. And if you can't celebrate
okay, here's more of that Western civilization crap. He invented. Okay, yeah. Well, hey, hey, let's say that. Let's say he did bring Western civilization to that hemisphere. We all know what Western civilization looks like now, don't we? Slaughter, slavery. Okay. Um, And by the way, I love the framing here that they're claiming that, like, what he mentioned, how Columbus introduced slavery. Yeah, no one claims that. No one is claiming Columbus introduced slavery. It had been around ages before that. I've never heard a person say that it was Columbus that did that.
that, it says much more about your moral compass than about history's greatest explorer. I'm Michael
What?
Knowles, host of The Michael Knowles Show, for Prageru.
Wait. He's saying that not wanting to celebrate Columbus says a lot more about your moral compass. Well, that is true, but I doubt he means it in the same way I would. Okay.
University.
This
Okay. Oh,
video.
okay, disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Gross propaganda. All right. Okay, let's see what we got in chat. Um, okay, guys, let's take a look here. Hey, Lost Legacy, thank you very much for the super chat here. They were considered subhuman/savages, and it justified the enslavement and stealing of the land for westward expansion for the money. It's tragic, 100% Lost Legacy. Um, okay, let's see here. Yep, you're right, guys. The Norse were the first ones were the first Europeans over to the New World. Grace Abrams, you're right. Colonization was done by many cultures. That is very true. But I will say the Europeans were especially they were the first sort of global colonizers that were horrific. You're right, Jay Shadow. Erickson was there 500 years before Columbus. Um, Wendy says a new world to him. Yeah, well, to him exactly, but that's the framing in the video, of course, being that he was the first one there. Nope. Yeah, oh gosh, Meowsord. Yeah, okay. Long Beach Dragon. Knowles wouldn't know Christopher Columbus from his left hand. I definitely see that. I definitely see that, Christopher Columbus. Henry G. Yes, correct. The La Reconquista ended right at the time of Columbus, and it kind of shows you I will say, there was sort of a desire for also spices and stuff, and the Europeans could not get those spices through the Middle East because the Ottoman Empire was there, and they had been waging war with the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire wouldn't let trade go through there. But a large chunk of it was the need for loot and trade goods after they ran out of loot in Spain. Oh yeah, Grace Abrams, you just said this. Okay, Grace Abrams. No, they needed spices from India because Grace, you have a lot of comments about the Arabs, and it's making me kind of uncomfortable. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there. You seem hyper focused on Muslims and Arabs, and I think you need to examine that part of yourself. Okay, it's kind of gross. Love having you in chat, but got a lot of focus on Arabs. Okay. Luke, I wonder if you got information from the Icelandic sagas. It's possible. It's possible. Tiago, I just want to say that I'm seeing another live at the same time as this one in Portuguese, and it's completely different. And I can't understand both. Be proud of me, please. I'm proud of you, Tiago. Thank you for trying to watch mine and something else. The Lost Legacy. They knew the world was round by that point. Yep, you're right, actually. And by the way, it is true that Columbus got lost. He thought he was going to India, and nope, he didn't get to India, and that's why it's the islands in the Caribbean were called the West Indies because he thought it was India, and that's why the Native Americans are called Indians because he thought he was in India. Okay, um, uh, Portugal kind of know already that Brazil existed. Yeah, I would have to look into that. I have not heard that. It's possible. Okay. Yeah, gross. Oz, as an adult, I've learned to truly love history. History is fun and fascinating and even kind of sexy sometimes. PragerU makes history less fun, less sexy, and full of lies. Couldn't agree with you more, Oz. Druzilla, like he wouldn't have mentioned that. Yeah, okay. Okay, Tiago, I have to say I kind of admire the courage of these people who dare just went into the boat to go nowhere. Columbus was a dick, though. And I got to tell you, a lot of historians would agree with that, right? The men that were on the boat with Columbus and Columbus himself, it did take a degree of courage to do what they were doing. I'm not going to deny that. They were kind of going into the unknown. But that being said, obviously, with the rest of it, kind of bad. Okay, just not kind of bad. Uh, yeah, exactly, Alyssa. Thank you. This video won't be mentioning any of the SA and abuse he committed. Yeah, okay. Um, Uh, Meow Zord, big Donald Trump leadership energy. I did it, not you. Yeah. Okay. Druzilla, you. Yeah. I know, folks. I do apologize for reading from his journal. I know it's almost like torture to read it, but I feel like it's important for you all to hear what he actually said, so we don't have to beat around the bush. And now you all know the kind of things he said. And by the way, those are only parts of it. There are other horrible parts of it. I read some of the. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Grace Abrams. Okay, well, I'm gonna skip going here. Free indeed, Western civilization. Yeah. Uh, yeah, Cristobal Colombo is not canonized in Latin America like he is here. And you have to remember, Oz, a lot of the folks in Latin America are descendants of the relationships between white Spaniards and the natives. So there is a deeper understanding there about the assaults and things like that that happened. And I suspect that is definitely yeah. Okay. Okay, Tiago, it's true. The old world, it's not the same. That the USA, really, that you. We love Trump. He changed our old world. Thank you. Oh, okay, Tiago. Jesus Christ, I know. Okay, here's all the puke things. I know. Uh, the others don't sound. They weren't. A lot of the folks with him were also horrible human beings. Okay. He was exiled. Yes, he was. Columbus was exiled. Uh, Yeah, if Hamina, we're actually gonna be welcome, Hamina. We're actually gonna be watching that one. It might be the next one. Hi, I'm back. Hi, remember I was made to watch a video by Prag. You were actually made to watch a PragerU video. I'm not surprised, but I'm sorry. I think that's the next one, Hamina. I'm back. I remember I was made to watch a video by PragerU in civics class about why America must lead. Yep, we're definitely gonna be watching that one. I didn't invent serial murder. I just did it. Correct, Rosilla. Wendy, so Wendy says you have to listen, view through the moral and standards of the time. Wendy, if you saw what I was saying here, even through the morals and standards of the time, Columbus was a monster. He was exiled. He was massively denounced by Bartolomeu de las Casas. Yeah, even people at the time viewed him as a monster. Yeah, thank you, Lost Legacy. Yes, Lost Legacies. I keep hearing people say he didn't create slavery. Just I've literally never heard anyone claim he did. Yeah, I never have either. Never have. Um, yeah, you're right, Tiago. He was awful by 1500 standards. Okay. Uh, okay. Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, and again, yeah, I a lot of good comments here, Jay Shadow talking about how, like, viewing him through the standards of today would definitely make him look evil, but even like I'm saying, folks, even at the time, he was viewed as evil. The things he did was considered massive crimes and such. Um, yeah, yeah, great comments here. Yeah, you're right, Wendy. Rome did have slaves 2,000 years ago. No one here is claiming that slavery did not exist before Columbus. Yeah, Oz, don't call out their hypocrisy. Um, yeah, Meowsword, I would agree with you. You kind of had to have an appetite for anarchy and savagery when being an explorer during that time. Was anyone an upstanding explorer back then? Yeah, good call there. Almost all the explorers were pretty brutal when they met native peoples. I don't understand why they were arguing. Me too. I don't get it. Yeah, white guilt. Elliot Waffles, having a moral compass means recognizing that SA is bad, even if it was 500 years ago. But I guess that makes me too woke. Once again, Elliot, you're too woke, Elliot. Yeah, okay, of course, Elliot, you're right, of course. Um, yeah, don't you love that the idea that the baby eaters, that all this demonizing language they use towards the native folks. Grace Abrams, I understand that. I can understand why you may feel that way. That is, I understand, but that's a bias you must have, okay? And Arab people are humans. We cannot generalize about any group of people, okay? Thank you, Death Died, as Death Died Today says, Arab people aren't a monolith, 100%, 100%. Heck, white people aren't a monolith, right? Christians aren't a monolith. No one is a monolith. Um, okay, Tiago Cardoso. Okay, about Portugal knowing about Brazil, it's not really known if it's true. But when the treaty of, oh yeah, the treaty of, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. You can make fun of me, Tiago. I know you. I will. Portugal thought about changing the map to include part of that space. That's interesting. Um, yeah. Okay, I like that you read from it a lot to take in. That's needed for sure. I agree. And folks, and I don't blame teachers who don't talk about his journals because that's kind of adult stuff. It's nearly pornographic, as you can tell. But I think it's important, especially as adults, that we do know what he said in his journals. Interesting, Tiago. I need to look more into that. That is interesting. Um, Death died today. Totally agree. The character of a person is not dictated by the actions of their government. 100%. Same thing when it comes to Jewish people. Okay, and the actions of the genocidal government in Israel. Okay. Um, Yep, Jay Shadow. Thank you for bringing that up, Jay Shadow. Jay Shadow says, anyone else remember Disney's Pocahontas movie? I don't think I can sing it because if I do, I might get demonetized here. But Savages, Savages, they're barely even human. And you notice how in that song they make it appear as though both sides were equally doing that because they also have the natives do that, right? Which is not really historically true. Yeah, yes, Wendy. You're right. I wasn't aware of his monstrous acts. Yeah, Wendy, that's not really your fault. It's not taught a lot about in some places. Yeah, but it is true that he was pretty monstrous. Sir Walter Riley was an interesting character too. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. So let's go on to the next one. Great comments there. If we get 4 more super chats, I will put on some makeup to complete the look. Our next one here is let's see here. Ah, perfect. Who was it here in chat that mentioned, watching the Why America Must Lead video? Yeah, and you're right, actually, Meowsert, I shouldn't say all the explorers were horrific, but, there were a lot of them that were, okay? Alright, so, okay, um, someone in chat mentioned that they had been shown this when they were in school, so let's get to it. Alright, so for this again, folks, I'll stop looking at the chat for a little bit. Thank you, Lost Legacy. Perfect timing, by the way. Let's go dark woke. We need to shame people that intentionally lie and gloss over the history of colonization and the atrocities that were committed. 100%. 100%. Totally agree. Thank you for the super chat, Lost Legacy. Yeah, and it's important because it's just reality, right? We need to. That's right, Homina. This is probably the one you saw in class, Homina. So we'll watch it together. Anyway, so lost legacy, yes, I think it's important for people to know reality. Otherwise, how can you understand the present if you don't know reality? Okay. All right, so here we go, guys. So this next video here is called "Why America Must Lead." I don't really know what they're referring to. I don't know if there's a particular time period they're referring to, but we'll take a look here. Okay.
The world is on fire. The Middle East is being torn up by war and terrorism that have forced millions of people to flee. Syria looks like the disaster of a generation. Iran seeks to dominate the region and openly declares its intention to wipe a sovereign nation off the map. While in Eastern Europe, a resurgent Russia has seized Ukrainian territory by force of arms. China is flexing its muscles against.
I'm sorry, I just got to point this out. The name of this video, "Why America Must Lead," talking about Russia invading a sovereign country, Ukraine, which absolutely is a war crime, and it's an imperialist action. It is murderous. Putin is a maniac. Um, but to criticize Russia and claim America must lead when, oh, I'm sure America has never done that, right? We've never unjustly invaded a country, destabilized a country in the Middle East, right? Built an empire like China is right now. Yo, no, no, America's done none of that, right? It's only been Iran, it's only been Russia, it's only been China. Okay.
Its neighbors around the South China Sea. There is only one nation in the world capable of putting out these fires. That nation is, of course, the United States.
Oh, yay, for us all,
Many Americans
yay.
will argue, understandably, that this is not fair. It may not be fair, but it is a fact. Only America has the diplomatic reach, the financial resources, and the firepower to lead the free world against the autocrats.
Again, folks, if you've watched my streams before, you know very well that America has been complicit in propping up dictators all around the world. So it's hilarious for him to say the U.S. leads the world against, autocrats, rogue states. Israel is a rogue state right now. Absolutely 100%, completing a mass genocide, unconditional support from the United States. We have overthrown multiple democratically elected governments historically. Heck, right now, Trump is positioning a bunch of warships outside of Venezuela. So hilarious that he's saying the U.S. needs to lead the world against autocrats and rogue states, while the United States is propping up both of those things and has often been the reason behind them.
Rogue states and terrorists that are trying to overwhelm it.
Terrorist? Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what you would call drone strikes, folks, but that's state terrorism. Okay, the United States has done terrorism. If anyone wants to look up what the United States did in Latin America, look up Operation Condor, where we funded terrorist right-wing groups and stuff in order to suppress the left in Latin America. The CIA has done terrorist attacks. Okay, so this again, funny.
As the Prime Minister of Denmark from 2001 to 2009 and the Secretary General of NATO from 2009 to 2014, I know how important American leadership is. I've seen firsthand what happens when America tries to lead from behind instead of leading from the front. A case in point, Russia illegally and
Okay, so I see where he's going with this. He is actually, I will say, he is partially right about this. The Crimea, Putin invaded the Crimea and annexed it during the Obama administration. And when you have an autocrat that does something like that, the last thing you want to do is appease them and let them get away with it, okay? Obama kind of did. He did start supplying Ukraine with some weapons, but he sort of let Russia do that. Again, I'm not saying I want the United States to be, this empire that does all this thing. I think the world should have stood up to Putin. But I get his point on this one.
Next Crimea in March 2014. The first gunpoint land grab in Europe since the end of World War II. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry called it an unbelievable act of aggression. He went on, "You just don't, in the 21st century, behave in 19th century fashion by invading another country on a completely trumped up pretext.
Oh my God, have you guys ever heard of the Iraq War? You just don't in the 21st century behave in the 19th century by invading another country on a completely trumped up pretext, like, I don't know, weapons of mass destruction. Oh gosh, John Kerry telling on himself, telling on the United States there. I know he's not referring to that, but hilarious.
This might be an admirable statement of principle, but as a guide to policy, it is dangerously naive because whether it was believable or not, it happened. The first half of the 20th century was the bloodiest in human history.
Yeah.
That was before America became a global superpower. Since America's ascendancy, the major world powers have coexisted in relative peace.
He's misidentifying the reason for this, okay? During World War I and World War II, a lot of the other powers of Europe destroyed themselves twice, which basically left an opening for the United States to become the global power. On top of that, there was another global power. There was the Soviet Union. It wasn't as strong as America, but also it is hard for big countries to engage in massive conflict when they have a boot on their neck in the form of the American empire or America's nuclear prowess and things like that. So there have been studies that show the invention of nuclear weapons. There was actually a massive decrease in the amount of people that died in armed conflict because now the big powers don't want to fight each other because they have nukes. That being said, it also keeps us always on the edge of global extinction because of nukes. Not sure if that's a good trade-off. I suppose partially, but anyway, yeah. So also, by the way, the Roman Empire under Caesar Augustus implemented something called the Pax Romana or the Pax Augusti, which basically was like the Roman peace. But yeah, they caused peace because they had occupied and they had controlled all the people that would have been fighting anyway. Okay.
Now that peace is threatened, and America must step forward again. Simply put, no one else can do it. Europe is too weak and divided to lead the world. The free nations have an essential role to play, and
But I don't really understand the assumption here. So, are we assuming there needs to be one superpower that does control everything? It is possible to have a multipolar world. We're actually heading in that direction. I'm not sure why we need to have one global imperial power, one global power here. It's like he's assuming that that is necessary.
they must shoulder their full share at the cost. But only America has the credibility to lead.
Really? Do we have the credibility to lead, folks? I'm so tempted to talk to chat right now, but I won't. But okay.
This is not just about money or manpower. It's also about morality.
Oh God, here we go.
Only America has the moral
Oh.
greatness to lead the free world, not for the sake of power, but for the sake of peace. Yet the US will only be able to ensure peace if its leaders act with conviction. If the world
So do we think that okay, yeah, I guess apparently America is this moral, city on a hill type thing. Ignoring all the things I just told you already. And by the way, I am not specifically saying that America is just bad in itself. Every empire in history has been brutal, and it has never been about he said that it wasn't about power. No, no, it's about power. Okay, it's 100% about power. It always has been for every empire in history. Um, yeah. Okay.
even thinks that America lacks the will to use force or enforce its red lines, it leaves a vacuum that will be filled by corrupt autocrats, rogue states, and murderous terrorists.
Okay, so like Israel, which is a rogue state. Yeah, if America leaves, apparently Israel will, I don't know, corrupt autocrats. Okay, yeah, which we've installed in multiple countries. Okay, I mean, there's that problem. Terrorist. America does terrorism. Okay, I mean, okay, the drone strikes and stuff are kind of terroristic. I'm going to be honest with you. Not to mention all the funding of terrorist groups we've done. So yeah. Oh yeah, and don't forget, folks, the Vietnam War and such like that. So that's kind of funny.
As tempting as retreat might be, it won't make America and the other freedom-loving countries safer or more prosperous. History shows us the bad guys don't stay in their own neighborhoods. We only need to look at Pearl
Mhm.
Harbor
Oh
or
yeah, here we
9/11
go.
to be reminded that the safe
Okay, folks, this is going to be a spicy take here. Uh, I'm not supposed to talk to chat. Regardless, one of the big reasons why, and I'm not, I hate, by the way, hate Osama bin Laden, not defending him at all. One of the big reasons why he wanted to attack the United States was because of American support for Israel. And a lot of times it is viewed as like this attack came out of nowhere. They hate us because they hate us, and things like that. And it was an absolute crime. Thousands of very innocent people died. It was monstrous, and he is a monster. But to claim that it was just like, oh well, they'll just attack you out of nowhere, right? There's more to it than that. So there is that's sort of historically inaccurate. Um, yeah. So just a side note there.
safety of Americans is deeply connected to the rest of the world. And the stability that has permitted the vast and worldwide economic expansion since World War II, an expansion that has lifted billions of people out of poverty, could not have happened if America had not guaranteed it. But freedom
Debatable. There is some truth in the fact that America, I mean, after World War II, there was pretty tremendous economic growth around the globe. Obviously, some places more than others, and it was sort of just natural growth given new technologies and stuff. I would not say that's because of America. That's a complicated issue.
stability, and prosperity don't come for free. And they are not the norm, they are the exception. An American retreat will unleash a new plague of dictators and oppressors who seek
Yeah, you always got to show Stalin, these images of Stalin and Hitler, got to fearmonger about this. There is some truth in that, like again, like Putin, who just kind of has those tendencies, but those are sort of the icons of hatred in America, like Hitler, Stalin. So yeah, but it's just fear mongering.
to undo all the good America has done to secure peace and prosperity around the world for decades.
Secure peace and
And
prosperity.
that could
For who, folks? Who was it secured for? It was secured for American companies, the wealthiest Americans. I don't know, the average American often not benefiting much from these things. I mean, maybe a little bit just from global trade and stuff, but I mean, okay.
lead to a fire no one will be able to put out. I'm Anders Fogh Rasmussen for Prager University.
Okay, I gotta go to chat. Oh, so I just want to see what you guys are saying about this. Oh goodness. Okay. I especially want to get all right. All right, Tiago, it's definitely interesting. Oh, yes, okay, where I started. Read that. You guys had to watch. So, Hamina, you had to watch that in Illinois in 2019. I'm so sorry. You've had. I apologize that your teacher was kind of foolish to do that. That's a fair point, Alan. I would have expected that in Florida or Alabama too. Oh no, did you already see it, Drusilla? Is that why you're warning me? Okay. Yeah, Meowzor, do we get our PragerU master's diploma after this stream? Or, right? I actually think they do have like a PragerU University certificate that you can print off or something for students. I could be wrong. I think I've heard of that before. Um, Tiago, don't invite someone else to Portugal. You already invited me to come to Portugal, so you got to let me come first, okay? Just kidding, okay? Lost Legacy, it's not like we fund a colonial settlement. Lost Legacy coming in with a brilliant take here, of course. Lost Legacy, it's not like we fund a colonial settler project that is a literal ethno-state. 100%, okay? Not to mention basically functions as a rogue state with nuclear weapons. Yeah, and they're armed with nukes. A genocidal regime is armed with nukes. Israel. Jay Shadow, unless the autocrats control the means to enforce policy, what then, good sir? Exactly, Jay Shadow, okay. Druzilla here, I've only heard of billions of debt, never understood that. Yeah. Yep. Especially for average Americans and stuff. That is disastrous. London, we've had a long period where democratic nations would literally prefer fascist regimes. Thank you, London. Yes, over communist regimes, and would often support said fascist regimes to try and topple communist ones. 100%. And folks, it isn't necessarily. We like to talk about America overthrowing communist regimes, but you have to understand, under a communist regime, the people of that country would own their own resources. They would expel foreign corporations. So, yeah, there was a fear of communism, but it was a fear of losing the ability to extract wealth from those places, okay? Largely. Not completely, but that was a big part of it. Okay, I don't know if it was a state thing or just your teacher. I'm guessing it was just your teacher at that point, Hamina, but yeah. Okay, London, but they hold a referendum, right? Okay. Disgusting of a Scandinavian to do this. Yeah. Now, Drusilla, I actually don't know much about that gentleman, if you can call him a gentleman who did that. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if you know much about them. I had honestly, I don't think I'd ever heard of them. But yeah, I suppose they're Danish. That's how we get involved. Let's see here. Sorry, I lost where it was. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Oh yes, here we go. Okay, here we go. This is how we get involved in most wars, by supplying one side. In today's world, we supply both sides, and the economy is supported by war. That's very true. If you want me to add on to that, folks, the Taliban in Afghanistan, they were originally called the Mujahideen, and we funded them in order to fight against the Soviet Union when the Soviets invaded. And then after the war, they took those weapons, became the Taliban, which we then had. Then we went to war with later. This is the folly of empire. You often end up fighting the same people you funded previously, and they end up, well, so the funny wording trumped up, I know, right? Kind of ironic there, Hamina in Afghanistan. Love some good virtue signaling. Mr. President, we checked. There's no nukes. Yeah, right. Look, what about Pinochet? Yep, another person we propped up and allowed to get into power before he disappeared thousands of his own civilians. Yeah, Empire wins every time. Marcos in the Philippines, Suharto in Indonesia, 100%. Luke, you're on track there. There was also the guy from South Korea who was a dictator. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. There've been multiple dictators we have propped up or put into power. The Shah in Persia. Yeah, the women of Afghanistan, Grace. Real bad situation for the women of Afghanistan. Absolutely. I mean, I have no defense for that. Obviously, the Taliban is. Yeah. Okay. Heading feels like we're already there, right, London? Luke, we have been throwing that way this year again. Yeah, this is literally just American propaganda. I know. It's basically it. Credibility. Hilarious. Here comes the just war argument, right, Luke? Okay. War crimes are moral now? Of course, Salmon, they are. Of course, because America does them. When America does it, they're moral. Okay, don't you see that calculus? Okay, nobody really has. Yeah, okay. Exactly, Tiago. I think I know what you're referring to. My comments about America being super moral stuff reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Let's share this prosperity to the rest of the world, right? Okay, Luke. This is some jingoistic bullshit. Couldn't agree with you more, Luke. Very jingoistic. Druzilla, this is absolutely laughable. Yeah. Oh, but by the way, though, Druzilla, I think one of the next videos here is about the Vietnam War. Oh, I am so excited to see that one. Let's see how that gets distorted. Wendy here, American morality. That's very questionable, right? Okay. Ugh, okay. All the U.S. bases, is that staying in your neighborhood? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Uh-huh. Meowzord, American Exceptionalism gave everyone gifted children syndrome. That's a good comparison. Meowzord. I remember Bush saying, Luke says, I remember Bush saying that that in the build up to Iraq, 100%. Grace Abrams, the main reason he attacked USA was because there were U.S. Army bases. Yeah, you're actually partially right there, Grace. I did kind of oversimplify. He was upset about U.S. military bases in Saudi Arabia, and I want you to, and again, not defending Osama bin Laden, who's a murderous monster who killed civilians and is a religious theocrat. I can't stand him. How would Americans feel if there was a foreign military base on their soil? So I'm just saying, yeah, that was another one of the reasons he hated the United States, not defending what he did. But that combined with American support of Israel and stuff can easily lead to people being religiously radicalized, okay? Especially if you have a base on territory that contains an Islamic holy site. I can imagine that happening sort of as like, what would you expect to happen? You're going to radicalize people if you're in their country with a military base. So just a thought, okay? Uh, yeah, okay, good. You guys got that too. Yeah. Uh, yeah, Jay Shadow, you're right. I should have been more clear there. Yeah, it was partially because of the military base thing. I will say I've actually read his stuff, and we do talk about the military bases a lot. He talked about that quite a bit. He also talked about Israel a lot. Now, I will say he is anti-Semitic, but but there was partially the funding there. Um, uh, I think the problem with communism during the Cold War was that the USSR was a real danger, was really bad. It was a fair fear, but on the other hand, the USA made terrible things and didn't want to help. Moon, yeah, thank you. Moon was the dictator of South Korea that we propped up. Oh, I know, Grace. I think everyone would agree with you. The USA, in our incompetence in Afghanistan, basically allowed the Taliban. I mean, I don't think we should have stayed, but yeah, our incompetence in thinking that we could prop up the regime in Afghanistan created the situation where now the women of Afghanistan are basically back in massive oppression. It's horrible. We'll see. Yeah, good question, Luke. We will see if they talk about the My Lai massacre. I am not going to hold my breath on that. Okay, Hamina, it's pretty funny we have all of our foreign military bases where we do, but my rep Mary Miller loves to say ban CCP from buying farmland. Right. Right. Okay. I will say though, now I agree with you, Hamina, but China has actually been building military bases and stuff in Africa, so they're not a good actor either. But Salmon Forest. Yeah, that's a good call. Salmon Forest. I don't know if I'd recommend people read that. Sambalan's a monster. A lot of the crap he says in that letter is propaganda to try and get on Americans' good side. He is not on our side. He is not on a lot of humanity's side. He's a pretty crazy theocratic cultist. Yeah. My point here, folks, is not to defend Osama bin Laden. It's simply to state that the history is more complex than simply saying like, "Oh, well, it's because they hate us because they hate us," or something like that. And by the way, Osama bin Laden was an elite. Okay, he was a millionaire, multi-billionaire. His father was the head of a Saudi construction company. He was not like this innocent little guy that was upset about the U.S. military, but but like he was an elite. And not a good actor at all, 100%. Okay, Korea was divided over a fight between two dictators, but we spread democracy and freedom throughout the world. Correct, Lost Legacy? Okay, guys. All right, let's go on to the next one. Oh boy, when I go next, I'm going to go to my doctor. I'm going to ask for some blood pressure medication. One second, I need to smoke. Okay, I'm sorry, do not smoke. Smoking's bad for you, but I need a little hit of my vape after that. Give me 1 second. I think I left it over there. Okay, and we're back. Okay, guys. Okay, I think the next one might be the Vietnam War. I think the next one might be the Vietnam War. We'll see. Yeah, you're right. He was also a Mujahideen. London. I will answer that, London. It's a good question. Okay. London says, genuine question. Why vape if you know the consequences? So, folks, I'm going to give you an excuse. It is not a good excuse. First of all, nicotine is addictive. And while I was going through a very stressful situation in my life, and the nicotine actually reduced my anxiety. So I started, and I was a fool because now I'm addicted. And you're right, I need to stop. I 100% do. And I'm hoping to start doing that soon. I'm kind of going through a stressful period at the moment. Again, not an excuse. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, London. I'm glad you called me out on that because everyone in the chat should be aware that it is an addictive chemical, and you should not start, and you should not continue, and you should not be a hypocrite like I am. Okay. Um. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. Don't be too hard on London. London, I love London here. London is 100% correct about that. And it is kind of hypocritical, right? When I say all that stuff. Okay. So, guys, let's watch the next one. I think the next one is.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
the
an
next.
AI, but I'm
Oh God. Okay, the next one is fascism right or left? Oh, okay. Here we go. 10 bucks says,
He's a fascist.
you know what, Tiago? Thank you for the super chat. We only need two more folks and I'll put on the makeup. But Tiago, I will take you up on that, okay? I do need to quit smoking, okay? I will buy that, okay? Yeah, how about the kid? This is totally only for my own benefit, folks. Hey, if you donate enough, I will try to stop smoking, or at the very least, I will not smoke whenever I'm on stream, and so that you know that I'm not doing it as much, I guess. But okay. Anyway, thank you, Tiago. I do need to stop smoking. I 100% agreed. Maybe I'll start like a little blog or something where I try to stop smoking. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. So let's do this. I'm gonna do my little intro here. Okay. So this video is called "Is Fascism Right or Left?" And I can see who's on the page right now. Okay. Great. Great. Okay. Let's continue. Let's see what they have to say about if fascism right or left.
He's a fascist. For decades, this has been a favorite smear of the left aimed at those on the right. Every Republican president, for that matter, virtually every Republican, since the 1970s has been called a fascist, now more than ever. This label is based on the idea that fascism is a phenomenon of the political.
I cannot for my life remember that guy's name, but I will say he is a right winger, not too bright. Okay, a lot of the stuff he says is completely wrong. The Republican Party likes to use him as a public face because he's not white. I can't remember his name, but regardless, zero expertise on the issue of fascism being left or right. Zero expertise on history, zero expertise on politics at all. I mean, he maybe knows a little bit about politics because that's what he talks about, but not exactly an intelligent figure. Let's see here. Okay.
Political right. The left says it is, and some self-styled white supremacists and neo-Nazis,
Dinesh D'Souza, that's his name.
embrace the label. But are they correct? To answer this question, we have to ask what
So
fascism...
before he starts, he's saying that fascism is far right. It absolutely is. Okay, it is almost universally considered far right by historians, political scientists, sociologists, etc. The farther right, so there are multiple interpretations of the political spectrum. This is the most simplistic one for the sake of explanation here is left to right, just a straight line. The farther right you go is more authoritarian, more less equality, more hierarchy. Okay, so if you get to the far end of that, you get to a point where some people are considered so low on the hierarchy that they aren't even allowed to live. They're viewed as subhuman. And you have an authoritarian government based off nationalism. I forgot that too. The farther right you go, the more nationalistic you get. So fascism, definitely very nationalistic, very about hierarchy, and very much authoritarian. Okay. And yes, we could debate how, Stalin left and stuff. But again, on a simple left to right, and that's why the simple left to right accent is, political spectrum isn't perfect because it kind of doesn't take account some of those things.
really means. What is its underlying ideology? Where does it even come from? These are not easy questions to answer. We know the name of the philosopher of capitalism, Adam Smith. We know the name of the philosopher of Marxism, Karl Marx. But who's the philosopher of fascism? Yes, exactly. You don't know. Don't feel bad. Almost no one knows. This is not because he doesn't exist, but because his
There are multiple different fascist thinkers in Europe and also in the United States. So there isn't really one thinker of fascism. That's the nature of fascism because it's a nationalist ideology. Different nations have different sort of fascist thinkers. I'll see what he says, though.
historians, most of whom are on the political left, had to erase him from history in order to avoid confronting
Nope.
fascism's actual beliefs.
Nope, nope, nope.
So let me introduce him to you.
Not true.
His
Lie.
name is Giovanni Gentile. Born in 1875,
Was one of them.
he was one of the world's most influential philosophers in the first half of the 20th century.
Also, let me point something out here to Dinesh D'Souza. If he knows anything about fascists, most of them really aren't the intellectual type. They're not sitting down and reading Giovanni Gentile. Okay, they're not reading a lot of these philosophers. A lot of the fascist philosophers were kind of like post hoc rationalizations for fascism. Fascists themselves don't really like reading. Okay, literally, they don't like intellectualism. So fascism kind of grows. I'll continue here in a second.
Gentile believed that there were two diametrically opposed types of democracy. One is liberal democracy, such as that of the United States, which Gentile dismisses as individualistic, too centered on liberty and personal rights, and therefore selfish.
Yeah, he did say that.
The one Gentile recommends, is true democracy, in which individuals willingly subordinate themselves to the state. Like his
He did say
philosophical
that.
mentor Karl Marx, Gentile wanted to create a community.
Okay. Any Europeans in chat will know that Marx is very influential with almost every modern European thinker, almost every single one. So to say that Marx was the mentor of Gentile is technically true, but it's not. Every thinker has been modern thinker has been influenced by Marx. It wasn't like he was especially influenced by Marx.
Community that resembles the family, a community where we are all in this together. It's easy to see the attraction of this idea. Indeed, it remains a common rhetorical theme of the left. For example, at the 1984 convention of the Democratic Party, the governor of New York.
That's not true. So fascists, their idea of family and community is to get rid of to have classes, but make it so that those classes aren't fighting anymore. They unite them around the idea of a nation. Okay, so like no, there's no class conflict between the poor and the rich, the owning class and the working class. We are all one nation, so we can ignore that difference. That is not the same as liberalism. Now, it's a bit more complicated than that. I'm kind of nitpicking here, but we'll go.
Mario Cuomo, likened America to an extended family, where, through the government, people all take care of each other. Nothing's changed. 30
Yeah, not the same as fascism. They don't think everyone should be included in that family, by the way, to the point where some people don't even deserve to live.
years later, a slogan of the 2012 Democratic Party convention was, "The government is the only thing we all belong to." They might as well have been quoting Gentile.
That's bullshit.
Now remember, Gentile was a man of the left. He was a committed socialist. For Gentile,
Again, any European in chat knows that there have been a lot. Europe has long had a lot of socialists, people who, or at least take inspiration from socialist ideas. That doesn't make them like doesn't make them like an actual socialist, if that makes sense. Okay, even some of the early Nazi Party people could be described partially as socialists, but they were still fascists. They had just been influenced by socialist ideas because it was a very popular idea in Europe.
fascism is a form of socialism. Indeed, its most workable form.
Nope.
While the socialism of Marx
Fascists are capitalist. Okay, there are some who have promoted anti-capitalist ideas, but they are capitalist by all accounts. They have a fake sort of socialism.
mobilizes people on the basis of class, fascism mobilizes people by appealing to their national identity as well as their class.
No, he actually appealed to national identity to overcome class.
Fascists are socialists with a national identity. German fascists in the
Nope.
1930s were called Nazis, basically a contraction of the term National Socialist.
But again, folks, North Korea calls itself a what is it, the Democratic Republic of North Korea or something like that? Not democratic, not a republic. The words, don't, and because socialism was so popular in Europe at the time, that was a great marketing move on the side of the Nazis. Could barely be called socialist at all.
For Gentile, all private action should be oriented to serve society. There's no distinction between the private interest and the public interest. Correctly understood, the two are identical. And who is the administrative arm of society? It's none other than the state. Consequently, to submit to society is to submit to the state, not just in economic matters,
Yeah.
but in all matters.
That is actually true. That is what a lot of fascists think, that the state is all that matters. The individual must submit to the greater whole. The individual doesn't matter. I'll give him that. He is right about that. But not that doesn't make you socialist. As a matter of fact, that is sort of right-wing thinking, right? If you go far enough left, the idea here is, if you go to communism, the idea is that the state should dissolve and it shouldn't exist anymore, and the people should have more say. So it is simply not true. That is a right-wing way of thinking.
Since everything is political, the state gets to tell everyone how to think and what to do.
Yeah.
It was another Italian, Benito Mussolini, the fascist dictator of Italy from 1922 to 1943, who turned Gentile's words into action. In his Dottrina del Fascismo, one of the doctrinal statements of early fascism, Mussolini wrote, "All is in the state, and nothing human exists or has value outside the state." He was merely paraphrasing.
Again, folks, that is pure right wing. Okay, all is the state and nothing exists. There are no individuals. Okay, liberalism, as much as I may not be a fan of a lot of the things about liberalism, is about individuals, the freedom of individuals, liberty. That's where the word comes from. So the freedom of individuals. And yes, so I don't know what he means by that. That is just not true.
Gentile. The Italian philosopher is now lost in obscurity, but his philosophy could not be more relevant because it closely parallels that of the modern left. Gentile's work speaks.
What does he know about the modern left? It doesn't parrot the modern left at all. As a matter of fact, the modern left, you want to talk about the modern right, Trump, fascism, right wing. Okay. Does that mean, so I guess Trump must be a socialist then?
Directly to progressives who champion the centralized state. Here in America, the left has vastly expanded state control over the private sector, from healthcare to banking, from education to energy.
So, especially for folks who are watching, who have seen my other streams here, we know that that's not true. The left and the Democratic Party have barely extended state control over industries and things like that. There's very, very few regulations. They've done it more than the right, but barely, okay? Nowhere near what would be called socialism in any other country. So, yeah.
State-directed capitalism is precisely what German and Italian fascists implemented in the.
Yeah, they did do state-directed capitalism. As a matter of fact, they did state-subsidized capitalism, where they would actually use the power of the state to support capitalist enterprises and things like that, okay? Not the same thing. Not the same thing at all.
1930s. Leftists can't acknowledge their man Gentile because that would undermine their attempt to bind conservatism to fascism.
Okay. Okay. The reason why the left doesn't talk about Gentile is because he's not a leftist. I feel like that's pretty obvious. And conservatism is not the same thing as fascism, but conservatism can often lead to fascism. So I'm not sure. Yeah, again, more nonsense.
Conservatism wants small government so that.
Yeah, so this is not true. I think we can all say that, especially in the United States, conservatives want big government in areas that help them control people, like, for example, controlling a woman's right to get an abortion, controlling the LGBTQ community, controlling what's taught in classrooms, controlling having a strong, powerful military that is controlled. But they want small government when it comes to capitalist enterprises. They want to deregulate everything, give more power to the people who already have power. It is simply not true because and socialists do not think that way at all. They want less power for these corporate entities and things like that. Um, I don't know why I'm even trying to dismantle him. It's clear he has no idea what the hell he's talking about.
Individual liberty can flourish. The left, like Gentile,
Again, individual liberty for who? Individual liberty for corporate entities, individual liberty for the military, individual liberty for white people, okay? You're not even then, really, okay? But not for most of the population.
wants the opposite, to place the resources of the individual and industry in the service of a centralized state. To acknowledge Gentile is to acknowledge that fascism bears a deep kinship to the ideology of today's left.
Nope.
So they will keep Gentile where they've got him, dead, buried, and forgotten.
Last note here, folks. The first concentration camp in Germany was Dachau, and the first people put into that concentration camp were not Jews, were not the Romani people, were not gay people. It were socialists. Same thing in Italy. The number one enemy of the Italian fascist regime were socialists, labor unions, things like that. So if it's true that fascism is left wing, what's that about? Okay, complete nonsense.
But we should remember, or the ghost of fascism will continue to haunt us. I'm Dinesh D'Souza for Prager University.
Well, that's partially true. The ghost of fascism does continue to haunt us in the form of Donald Trump and the right wing in the United States of America and Orban in Hungary, etc. But that is a right wing ghost. Okay. All right. Okay, chat. I got to see what you have to say now. I'm so excited. I saw a lot of good chats here. Yeah. Okay. Oh, these are good. Okay. Thank you, Dinesh D'Souza. Luke, by the way, I saw that chat. That's what allowed me to get it right in the video. So thank you for that. They love DEI when it's for their branding, 100%. Jay Shadow, Hamina, that is such a true statement. Yeah, it absolutely is. Hamina, I don't know if that's controversial, but I think that's how it goes. You know, you're right. You're right. When you are right, Hamina, if you're referring to the Democrats, yep. Okay, it's true. But they would never try to actually help the economic situation of the people that they're included in the DEI stuff, right? So, Jay Shadow, they love to say that's a good one. Yeah, they do. Okay, Mussolini was pretty early. I don't know who his intelligentsia was. Yeah, so that's the thing. Like I said, a lot of these fascist folks, they had these political ideologies, but most of them weren't aware of these political ideologies. They were just kind of brought into the mix of fascism. Fascists are not academics. As a matter of fact, Hitler always got annoyed because most of his brown shirts, he would force a lot of the inner circle of Nazis to go to the opera to watch Wagner, and they would always start falling asleep and fighting and stuff in the theater. And Hitler, who did like things like that, would always get really annoyed with them because a lot of fascists are basically just thugs. So that is yeah, okay, they're not like intellectuals at all. Uh, Tiago, let's just call dictators monsters. Wait, but that can ruin the movie Monsters. Let's call all dictators dick smallers. Oh, I love it, Tiago. Exactly. Okay. Alyssa says, why would it even matter if it was left or right? Because, of course, Alyssa. Of course, Dinesh D'Souza here is trying to, demonize the left, or not demonize the left, I guess, liberals and stuff in the United States. It's just a political move on his part and their part. Yeah. So it's all about, this is all just propaganda. It's all just trying to make us link fascism and Hitler with liberals and left wingers in the United States as a way of, demonizing and dehumanizing them. Yeah, Marx. That's a good question, Jay Shadow. Marx actually sent Abraham Lincoln a letter. Lincoln himself was not obviously a Marxist or anything, but Marx did like Lincoln in a lot of ways. He viewed him as sort of this great historical figure that helped end slavery and moved the United States on to the next level of economic system. Yeah. Oz, speaking of fascists not liking illiterate populists, I strongly recommend the essay Politics in the English Language. As always, Oz, you're right. And I've mentioned, as many of you know, many times in the live chat, folks, read as much George Orwell as you can. He did have an essay called Politics in the English Language, where he talks about how the English language has been degraded over time and made to fit systems of power. 100% Oz. Highly recommend that. Fox Emblem 1, unironically, Marx has been right about everything, and his analysis of economics being ignored in the USA makes me sad. Same goes for Engels. You're absolutely right, Fox Emblem. Marx has not nearly been as much of an intellectual force in the United States, largely because of the Cold War, because of the distance between the United States and Europe, which made it easier for the United States to control information about Marx getting over there, and the suppression of Marxist movements and left-wing movements in the United States. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right, Tiago. Gentile, not exactly a bright guy, okay, at all. Yeah, he didn't know what a democracy was. He completely, yeah, okay, he used those words, but that doesn't mean that those words mean what we think they mean. Yep, you're right, Luke. It's national identity they hold on to. Tiago says, I didn't know who Gentili was. Yeah. So, Gentili, again, as I said, there were some thinkers of fascism, but there wasn't like one thinker, and they were kind of irrelevant, to be honest, because fascist movements take on their own character. They're not really about intellectual movements. Yep, Tiago, Nazism is definitely not socialist. If I say that I'm a trout and change my name to Mr. Trout, am I a trout? Absolutely. Okay, Fox Emblem, big differences between serving the state only and serving for the betterment of all of us as people. 100%, Fox Emblem, 100%. Long Beach Dragon, the state gets to tell the people what to think and do. Yeah, like our mango in chief. 100%. The fascist in charge right now is the exact same way. Fox Emblem, also God, Prageru vomits. I know, I'm going to vomit watching it. Tiago, yep, these videos are manipulative. They're pure propaganda. It's just right-wing propaganda trying to brainwash our youth. He's pissing me off, Wendy. I know. Good, Fox Emblem. Yeah, I'm going to say it. I hate Prageru. I think we all agree, okay? All my homies hate Prageru. Yep, don't blame me there. Okay, your bedroom. Yep. They also, Luke. I think what you're referring to here is that under fascism, the state does get into your bedroom. Okay, regulates who you can have fun with or whatever, etc. It's like the perfect violation of privacy. Yep, Jay Shadow, big government for the little guy, little government for the big guy. Corporations are people, don't you know, right? Oh, I'm shocked to think that, even though according to American law, that is the case. They are treated as people, though they actually have technically more rights than an individual does, according to American law. Wendy, I love that. Okay, Fox Emblem 1, communists and socialists and trade unionists were the first to go. Correct, Fox Emblem. The left was the first. They were the first targets of the Nazi regime. It was not. LGBTQ folks or Jewish people. Okay, people forget that, and there's that famous statement. First they came for the socialists, and I did nothing. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did nothing. Okay, and you've all heard it before. Yeah, I know, Jay Shadow. Having to explain to people that Nazis weren't socialist. Long Beach Dragon. Yeah, okay. My IQ dropped 15 points watching this video. Mine too. Okay. Andre Ventura in Portugal. Yeah, if you're talking about one of the intellectual roots of fascism, yeah, that's one. That's so true, Meowzord. I'm surprised they didn't blame Obama, right? I was shocked that he didn't. Now I think this was many years ago. Actually, it might have been during Obama. I was like, I'm surprised they didn't bring up Biden. Okay, anyway. I'm sorry, Dubois. Go back and watch it, Dubois. I'm sorry your video froze. This video triggered me, Wendy. I don't blame you. Um, I won't spoil it for you, Dubois. Hey, Radon, welcome to the chat. One of the regulars here. Oh, you're right, Jay Shadow. So I could, that's a good idea. I could pause in the next one, and I can cut out that part. That's a good point, so I don't get a backup. My goat skip. Am I skipping all your chats, Alan? I'm sorry. I don't mean to. Oh, my home. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see here. At least you got to watch the video laughing my ass off. I didn't. My PC froze. I got you. Okay. I was just trying to play some. Hey guys, I love that game. I love Hearts of Iron 4. Okay. Maybe someday I'll do a live stream where I'm playing it. Oh darn, I missed Demosthenes. Oh darn, I missed Dinesh D'Souza on my drive home. I know. I mean, so what a loss for you there, Demosthenes. Oh, I got you. Okay, that makes sense, Tiago. I guess he's a modern day guy. The name of the leader. I got you. Okay. I think there's one more, folks. One more here in the playlist. Let me do that. Uh, yeah. Okay. Oh, sweet Jesus. Okay, here we go. The last one here is called "Why Did America Fight the Vietnam War?" I'm gonna pause that so we can't really hear it. I'm sure this will be full of factual analysis, nuanced discussion, etc. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Folks, bye again. If we get 2 more super chats, I'll put on some makeup, etc., etc. I know. I'm gonna start screaming too, probably. Okay. All right. So this next one here is called "Why Did America Fight the Vietnam War?" And let's see.
The Vietnam War lasted 10 years, cost America 58,000 lives, and over $1 trillion adjusted for inflation. It brought down a president, stirred social unrest, and ended in defeat. No one in hindsight believes fighting a losing war is ever worth the cost.
Yeah, I'm with him so far. Definitely did bring down a president, definitely did cause social unrest, and definitely ended in a defeat. Okay. Hey, if we just keep talking about it this way, I'm on board. Okay, let's see what he does.
Consequently, the Vietnam War is usually written off as a colossal strategic blunder and a humanitarian disaster. Yet historical appraisals might have been much different had the Vietnam War followed the pattern of the Korean War, which the United States fought for almost identical reasons, the defense of freedom in Asia. The U.S. had military advisors in Vietnam.
No. Okay, the United States didn't fight the Korean War for defense of freedom in America, in Asia. It was to protect America and empire, essentially, and to ensure that the Soviet Union and communists didn't have increased influence in Asia. Not about freedom not about freedom in Asia. Just look at who they installed as a dictator of South Korea. That was not a freedom thing. Okay, that is a complete lie. 100% not true. Yeah.
During the 1950s, but didn't become involved in a major way until 1963.
That's debatable. They were involved. They were involved. They actually, yeah. Okay.
President John F. Kennedy firmly believed in the domino effect, the foreign policy theory that vulnerable nations without help would fall one after another, like dominoes, to external communist aggression. Kennedy thus hoped to stop Soviet and Chinese-backed communist invasions in the manner President Harry Truman had in Korea by taking a stand in Vietnam. As with Korea, was a war the United States did not seek, as with...
Okay. I'm going to start by talking about something real fast here. Vietnam, before there was a North and South Vietnam, had been under the occupation of the French as part of the French colonial empire. They were, to them, this war was about national liberation. It was a war for freedom from colonial overlords. Ho Chi Minh and stuff were viewed as sort of like George Washington type figures fighting for freedom from colonial overlords. And the South was sort of propped up by the West in order to prevent complete and utter decolonization there. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, the Vietnamese actually defeated the French at a battle called Dien Bien Phu, where they pushed out the French colonial empire, and then America comes in, and Ho Chi Minh was begging America, please help us with our independence. He actually really respected America, and he viewed that as a nation fighting for the freedom of peoples. He was wrong about that, unfortunately, and he begged America for help. America did not help him. Okay, they sought America backed the French. They backed colonialism still within Vietnam. All right. So the United States did seek conflict. They were trying to keep Vietnam as part of this sort of colonial possession, okay?
Korea, Vietnam presented no imperial advantages, no natural resources, or resources of any kind that the United States needed to protect or wished to obtain. As with Korea, the aggressor was a communist government.
So okay, there is some truth in that. There weren't necessarily vital resources in those locations. But again, that kind of shows that this was mainly about empire and power, right? It was sort of a conflict between two empires, almost three empires, Soviet Union, China, and America, okay, trying to maintain their imperial possessions and their control over these regions.
The North intent on taking control of the South, and its military crossed an internationally recognized border to do so.
Uh, after the South had actually, as part of the peace agreement, the South had agreed to hold free and fair elections, including allowing the communists to be on the ballot. They did not. They broke that promise, and it was because of that that the North invaded, because the promise had been broken to hold free and fair elections for the Vietnamese people.
Following Kennedy's assassination in November of 1963, President Lyndon Johnson vastly escalated America's role in 1964. But even as he did so, Johnson prosecuted the war with deep ambivalence, authorizing significantly more troops and money for the war, but never pushing for total victory.
Part of the reason for that, folks, is that if you guys ever heard of the Pentagon Papers, America basically at this point already knew that they couldn't win. But none of these presidents, that they were going to be defeated. They simply could not win. The only way to really win would have been to exterminate every Vietnamese person. I'm not joking, because the communists are very popular. But none of these presidents wanted to end the war, because that would have made them appear to be the president that lost the war. So they had no problem sending in thousands of American troops to die. They had no problem killing thousands of Vietnamese people for this political purpose, even though it was already very clear that America would not be able to win the war.
In contrast, the North Vietnamese never wavered. They ignored every one of Johnson's many offers to negotiate a settlement.
Because they were winning. They were winning. Okay. They had no reason to accept his offers. They were winning.
By 1971, the war was at a stalemate, neither side able to establish a clear advantage. The President, Richard Nixon, pursued a two-pronged strategy: to turn over combat operations to the South Vietnamese and to bomb North Vietnam. The effort brought the communists to the Paris peace talks, and by 1973, the North agreed to a general settlement, establishing...
Oh, they're missing a lot there, like the illegal bombing. First of all, the mass murder that this bombing did, firebombing mass swaths of rainforest with napalm, bombing population centers, killing thousands of civilians. How much you want to bet, folks? I'm not even going to mention the My Lai massacre. Not only that, Henry Kissinger, who right now is burning in hell, promoted the bombing of the neighboring countries, which were not involved in the war, Laos and Cambodia, illegally bombing those countries in order to stop North Vietnamese troops and such from coming down into South Vietnam. Many war crimes committed, many other atrocities committed there. Okay. And I'm not saying that the North was perfect. They massacred a lot of people. But my point being here that, they're skipping a lot of stuff that went on here. And by the way, another thing that America did that they didn't even mention is that they set up these fortified settlements in an effort to prevent the Vietnamese from joining the communists. And they basically took people away from their farms and forced them to live in these camps away from their farms. And what do you expect to happen there? People weren't getting food, things like that. So America did nothing but make the population of Vietnam hate them even more and want to side with the communists even more. It was an endless cycle, and it made it was impossible. They couldn't have possibly won. The America just made it so wouldn't have ever won. There was too much popularity amongst the communists.
Two autonomous Vietnamese nations, one communist, one non-communist, in the manner of North and South Korea. However, the Watergate scandal, the subsequent resignation of President Nixon, and the Democrats' sweeping congressional victory in the 1974 midterm election all helped to convince the North Vietnamese that America would not enforce the peace agreement.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, it is thought, now this is debated historically, do not take my word on this. There are a lot of historians who have different views on this. Nixon, in an effort to win his election, was likely in communication with the North, telling them to not end the war until he was elected, because then he would give them a greater deal. And he wanted to do that because he wanted to make Johnson look bad. And then on top of that, he wanted to be able to take the credit once he was elected. But of course, he reneged on that. If that's in fact what happened, there is debate on this. Don't take my word on that. Because Nixon was a monster, obviously. And yeah, and he didn't enforce the peace deal. So, okay, we'll continue.
Right. Without U.S. air support and material aid, the South Vietnamese had no chance against the North. Well supplied by
And yet, folks, America had no chance against the North at this point. Okay. Well, like I said, during the Pentagon Papers, it was revealed that for many presidential administrations, it was already acknowledged that America wouldn't be able to win the war for a number of reasons. Not mentioning the fact that people in Vietnam didn't like them. A lot of people didn't like them. Some did.
the Soviet Union and the Chinese, the communists gained full control over the country in April 1975. The war proved far more costly than Korea because the geography and landscapes of Vietnam were far more conducive to insurgency operations.
Yeah, which made it so that the Americans lost. Okay. The Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese military were very competent. It was their country, and they had a lot of popular support. So
There were also far more restrictions placed on American commanders than during the Korean War. In the United States in the
I like how that's sort of a criticism. First of all, barely. There were barely restrictions put on U.S. commanders. Again, mass fire bombings, murder of vast numbers of civilians. But yeah, there may have been some restrictions, but that was to prevent war crimes and mass death, though I doubt that really was something that was restricted. And he's been like, yeah, well, the United States was restricted, so that's why they lost. Well, yeah, maybe they were restricted from doing war crimes. Okay.
1960s was a far less conservative and cohesive country than America than
Far less conservative and cohesive country. Okay, I don't even need to comment on
the
that.
1950s. Yet despite the long ordeal and terrible costs, South Vietnam was saved in 1973, only to be lost in 1975. The U.S. defeat in Vietnam was a political choice, not a military.
Okay, folks, I'm going to pause it there. I will finish this video. Yeah, guys, I did see that we reached the little super chat limit. So here, I'm going to put on some makeup. Give me a second. Thank you, Macy Schroeder. Yeah, maybe we should react to MASH. That'd be kind of fun. I saw some other ones here. Yeah, HO4. We should play Tiago. We should play HOR multiplayer, HOI4 as a cult. Okay, here. Okay, we'll put on some makeup. Oh, geez. What color should we go for, folks? Let me see. All right, let's get the jestery look going here. I'll first do the lips just to kind of make this make myself look scarier. Here we go. Right? Maybe a little different color here. What other color should we do? Let's see what we got saying chat here. That's a good point. I really should make a video about why my face looks this way. So when people who don't come to stream see it, they're like, what is this lunatic doing? Okay. Let me get a different light here. We're gonna take a moment here, folks. I think we'll do the Trump orange here. I think that's seems to be in style these days, doesn't it? A little bit of Trump orange. Look like the orange Mussolini here. Okay, let's just do a little bit of Trump orange. Get this going. I will definitely look here in a second to make sure this is actually looking appropriate here or looking good. All right, let's get this going. Please bear with me, folks. Bear with me. Looking beautiful is a process. Looking beautiful is a process. Okay. All right. Jeez. Okay. By the way, folks, I think we should make America great again by bringing back men wearing makeup. Okay, let me check the camera. I got to make sure this looks okay. Yeah, Mango Mussolini. Let me see what we got. I got to add more. I know I got to add more, but I'm going to go to the face screen, folks, just so I can make sure I see this. Okay, we're almost there. Almost there. A little more here. I should start doing makeup tutorials or whatever. There we go. All right. How are we looking? We looking okay? Maybe do more on that side. Okay, bear with me. A little bit there, all right. Maybe a little more on the inside of the eye here. All right, I'm gonna get it in my eye, and then I'm gonna start crying, if not from watching the videos here. There we go. Okay, how's the other side look? Do I need more on the other side? Probably. And do a little more here on the other side. And complete the look. I think I need more on the lips too. Ooh, there we go. That's good. That's good. Okay, now I will add a little bit of something to the eyes because every jester has to have some sort of eye thing going on. Now, this is going to look terrifying, folks, because without a mirror, the eyes are going to look, well, we're going to have nightmares. Okay, let's go a little down here. We can do a little sort of thing here. You all are a bunch of degenerates. You know that, making me do this. Oh, I messed it up. I messed it up. It's okay. It's okay. It'll look crazy, but that's fine. That's fine. A little bit under the eyes. All right. Okay. Oh God, all my gay friends are gonna hate me. Can't do this very well. Uh, oh, good Lord. Okay. I'm gonna do a little under the eyes. And I'm gonna add a little more to the mouth because, gotta complete the look here. Look like Heath Ledger. All right. Okay. I think we're good, aren't we? I look a little better now. All right. Hat back on and finish up this video. Uh, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay. Thank you, folks, for the super chats. Only the second time we've gotten to put on the makeup on stream. All right. Let me go back to chat here. I need my glasses. I'm like, why can't I see? All right. Oh, oh, that's bad. That is bad. Okay. Oh well. Hey, it works. Let me see the chat, folks. Let's see what kind of horror I have in the chat waiting for me. No, thank you. Jeez. Um, I'll do that, Alan. I'll explain in the video. I'll actually make a clip of it. Okay. That would look very random. Okay. Macy. I def want a GRWM to be legally allowed to think. What? I'm sorry, Macy. What is GRWM? Please tell me. Mango Mussolini. Do I kind of look like the Mango Mussolini? Yeah. Okay. No, I mean at the end of the uploaded video, you're randomly going to have me. That's true. I'll add like a little thing at the. I'll add something to it so that people don't think I've lost my mind. Okay. Just not this makeup, right? Okay. There's going to be a cut in the video and you're going to have makeup on random. But yeah, I'll figure it out, folks. Demosthenes, pumpkin spice Palpatine, 100%. Okay. Oh, I love that. But okay. This is how democracy ends to thunderous applause. Okay. I thought he was going to finish the video before he did the makeup. And no, of course not, Alyssa. I gotta stick to the rules. Red clown. Oh, I should do a red clown nose. Gavin Newsom has an AI image with a red cap that says, "Make Melania." Race. Make Melania come again. I love that. Okay. Yellow. I should do yellow eyes. Okay. No, no cap. You aren't on drag queen levels of makeup skill. Just saying, Hamina. I agree. Okay. Like I said, gay friends would be very angry with me for my horrible skills at makeup. Big Trixie. I should ask Trixie for some help. Send her an email. Before you start reacting again, explain why you have makeup on for the people that don't watch the news. I will do that. I will do that. LOL. You guys could do it over Zoom. That is true. Get ready with me. Uh, okay, funeral. Okay, well, just gonna be a random cut. The AI photos again. Okay. I will. Let me just add a little more. I'm gonna add a little, as requested in chat. I'm gonna add a little red to my nose because you're right. That is a lot of jesters would actually have red on their nose. Just to kind of add a little more there. There we go. A little bit of red. I bring out my communist, my left-wing credentials with a little bit of red. Oh, it's going to mix with the orange. It's just going to look like I've been shoving my nose in somewhere inappropriate. But anyway, okay, there we go. All right, we can finish this. I will definitely Okay, guys, let me finish this video. I will thank you, by the way, Alan. Uh yeah, I know I should do this with video with my dad. For the folks that I know you're right, Long Beach Dragon. I really ought to ask my sister to give me some makeup lessons. Hey, I don't have a mirror down here. I really ought to get one. I could do it much better with a mirror. I just am not skill levels in front of right now are not great. Okay, guys, thank you again for the super chat. Let me finish this video fast. And who was it that mentioned? I will make sure, folks, that I make a yeah, Alan W. I'll make sure I make a comment on that. Okay, I'll do that. All right, let's finish this up. Oh, okay. Let me just do this real fast. Let me go back to the screen. Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay. Okay, I'll do this. All right. All right, so as part of my live streams, I kind of level up like a Pokemon. All right, as I get super chats, I put on Jester hat, Jester collar, and during this live stream, I did in fact make it all the way to putting on makeup because of the generous donations of the people watching me. Just for the folks watching this on YouTube, I just want you to know that so you don't think I've lost my mind midway through doing this. All right, I will now finish the video. Let's get it going.
Had the U.S. protected?
So that's a lie. Historians would agree that it was a military defeat. It was also a political necessity, but it was largely a military defeat as well.
Had the U.S. protected an independent but vulnerable South Vietnam in 1973 and 4, that country would have most likely followed the model of...
No, so South Vietnam was extremely corrupt. There was a lot of corruption there. By the way, the United States supported the overthrow of a few governments that they thought weren't keeping South Korea strong enough, which just further destabilized it. South Korea was not really a functioning state, which is why, as soon as the United States left, the North was able to just take over it.
South Korea. Millions of Southeast Asians would not have become boat people and refugees or have been sent to the gulags and re-education camps.
So this, just to let you all know, after this North Vietnamese took over South Vietnam, there were very few reprisals. I'm not joking. Look it up. They did send people to re-education camps, obviously horrific, but you would expect there was all this fear that the North Vietnamese would start massacring civilians and stuff. They actually didn't. Okay, which is actually really was not expected, and I would have expected they would. They did not, but they did send some people to re-education camps.
A viable U.S.-backed democratic Vietnam would have stabilized the region and almost certainly prevented the neighboring Cambodian genocide, in which 1/5 of that country...
Again, we bombed Cambodia during the war, which also massively destabilized it. So that is a complete oversimplification of Pol Pot and what happened in Cambodia. That was also partially the result of the United States. And also, by the way, the Vietnamese actually ended up invading Cambodia to get rid of Pol Pot, along with China and such. So they partially ended the genocide as well. So to blame that on the Vietnamese is just wrong.
2 million people were slaughtered by its communist leadership. And much of the bitterness over the war on both sides of the American political spectrum still with us.
That is true, though I will say the North Vietnamese regime did slaughter a lot of their own civilians in a number of different ways during the war and after the war. But it wasn't, okay.
Today would have vanished. And for the communist Vietnamese, the instigators and aggressors of the terrible conflict, what was it all for?
Again, folks, who were the instigators? Remember I said that Vietnam was seeking independence from their colonial overlords. To me, colonialism is an aggression, obviously. So, and that's not true regarding who the aggressors were, or at least I should say it's much more complicated than that.
Today, ironically, the Vietnamese government aspires to nothing more than the capitalist affluence that it once reviled. I'm Victor Davis Hanson of the Hoover Institution for Prageru University.
Okay, another nonsense video with nonsense history in it. Okay, folks. Okay, I'm going to go back to my face screen here. Okay, here we go. I'll go back to the face screen. I will say, folks, so I know I just put the makeup on here, but it is getting kind of late. Let me go read through the chat to see what people have said during my self-humiliation. Okay. Yeah, good thing you guys aren't culturophobic. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, you're right, Luke. Kissinger loved Pol Pot. Another reason why Henry Kissinger is burning in hell. Hopefully. France, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Alyssa and Macy, for using the you know what? I can do that. I'll make a sticker of me in makeup. Some great images that'd be great. I know, Tiago. I'll do that. I'll do the reaction about the Operation Success. Yeah, I see a lot of folks are talking about Gavin Newsom. Yeah, not a great guy. Okay, yeah, he might be doing some good marketing right now, but again, actions speak louder than words. I mean, you know, we'll see. Yeah, I like that, Alan W. Fox. Someone trust me, we're on the same wavelength. People are getting really lipped up over his trolling, and it's concerning. Yeah, and just folks, remember the number of other times that establishment Democrats have gotten people lipped up only to disappoint them, time and time and time again. So I don't have much hope with that. Uh, yeah, France. Yep. I right, Salmon, you're right. Colonialism is moral, according to Prageru, apparently, right? Apparently. And, Christopher Columbus was just a little angel, wasn't he? Um, okay, guys. You got on me. Okay, so folks, it is, at least where I am, it is almost 9 p.m. I am going to get off stream now. Thank you, everyone, for the super chats. I think this is the most amount of donations I've made since I've started. You're absolutely right, Grace Abrams. You're right. So Grace Abrams says Kissinger allowed Indonesia to invade East Timor. That was genocidal violence, by the way, that the United States funded, ignored. Um, you're absolutely right, Grace Abrams. Spit and fire, Grace Abrams, right there. Okay. Actually, Alan W. will do that. Alan W. says there's a really short, like 2-minute video I sent in the suggestions part of Discord. Yeah, let's look at that first. Okay. Um, Wendy, that is fair. Okay, I understand. I'm not a fan of Gavin Newsom, but I understand that he at least is appearing to fight. That is more than some Democrats can say. I just don't hold out much hope for the future of what that means. Okay, guys, I will react quickly to that video that Alan W suggested. Let me pull it up here. Alan W, is that in the? It's in the suggestions. I'm going to see here, Alan W. Where did I see Alan W? Where did okay? Alan W. Where'd you go? I can't find it now. Okay, I'll look at the. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'll find it real fast, folks. I'll do that reaction to that last, and then I will stop. Suggestions. Let me see here. Okay, found it. Okay. Oh goodness. Okay. Oof. All right. We'll see how this goes. How do I get this to open here? Open in a browser. Visit site. Okay. All right, let me see here. It should have pulled up on this page. Right. We did that one earlier. Where did it go? Where did it go? Give me a second. Trying to figure out how to open it so I can watch it. I don't know why it's being weird with me. Oh, you know what I need to do? I know what I'm doing wrong here. Okay, I'll just click the link. Duh. Okay, geez. Ugh, incompetence. Okay. All right, folks. So let me go back to the screen so we can watch this together. That'll be the last video I react to, and then okay. So live stream. Here we go. So I'm going to pause it here. Open this up. I'm going to make sure that the sound is up so you can see it. You can hear it. Let me make sure that I actually have it linked to the sound here. Okay. Okay. Here we go. I think this is the right audio. Let me double check. Sorry, folks. Yeah. Okay. So we'll here we go. Let's do this. So I'm not sure what this is. We'll find out very quickly. We'll find out together. Okay, and we'll see what new fresh horrors await us, as always on the streams. Let me make sure here I can see what all you were saying. Okay, let's do this. Rewind it to the beginning. Okay. Alan W. As always, I will. Okay, please let me know, folks, if you can't hear it. I think I got the audio settings right, but sometimes with Twitter I have some issues with it. So let's see what we got. I should, Grace Abrams. I should do a video of all the Gavin Newsom tweets. Sorry, Alan, I just called you Gavin Newsom. Please forgive me. Okay, here we go.
Have you looked at some of the things that are being reviewed?
I'm going to pause it there. Can we hear it? Can you at least hear it before I start going through the whole thing, guys? Just anyone just say yes. I will then go continue. Just want to make sure. Anyone? Anyone? It's quiet. Okay, let me turn it up. Again, I always kind of struggle with the Twitter stuff. I'll quickly turn it up a bit so we can all hear it. Okay, how about now?
Have you looked at some of the things that are being reviewed?
Yeah, slavery was about.
Okay.
Is that good? Is that better? And I'll start it over. Oh God, they're talking about slavery. I'm already, this is going to be a disaster. Okay, let's take a look. All right, folks. It's still too loud. Better? Okay, better. Excellent. Okay, guys, let's take a look at this. Let's see what this is. Let's see what new fresh hell Alan W has given us to look at. Here we go.
Have you looked at some of the things that are being reviewed?
Yeah, slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay,
like
he's not whitewashing
I love her face. Yeah, slavery was a bad thing we should talk about. Yeah, obviously.
slavery. So
he's not?
He's not. No,
Okay.
he's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the.
Well, in America, folks, it was linked to race. Is that a controversial statement? Yeah. It was linked to race in America. That is exactly what it was. It was based on race. So yes, an American museum talking about American slavery would need to be linked to race. Am I an idiot by thinking that? I feel like that's very obvious. I feel like most of us learned that in high school, right? I mean, okay.
The fact that when you
Let's talk about the fact.
Slavery in America was.
do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were.
Do you know who?
Okay, sorry. Again, who was claiming that it wasn't? Is anyone claiming that slavery wasn't thousands of years old? No one is making that comment. No one. I've never heard anyone say that. Like, oh, slavery is a recent invention. No one. I'm going to go back. I started talking over her. I mean, there might be better, but we'll see.
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that
Thank you. It was literally a system of white supremacy in the United States, okay, and in a lot of places all over North and South America.
Slavery is thousands of years old.
White people were.
Do you know
the slave
who
owners.
was the first?
I love the smile on his face. He's just like, oh, what the heck are we doing here? Okay.
I didn't realize this was controversial.
Wait a second.
Well, what's controversial?
I'm very surprised.
This is an extraordinary exercise in historical revisionism.
I'm really surprised.
Do you realize that?
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and
I'm
who
not.
was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is
in
that
the context of American history.
Thank
in
you.
the context of American
Thank
history,
you.
What are you saying is incorrect by
I'm
saying
is
that
you
it was white
cannot-
people oppressing black people?
every single thing
Just a fact.
is like, oh no, this is all because white people bad, and that's just not the truth. Like for example,
Hey, who is saying that? Who is just outright saying, who's like, oh, this is because white people bad? No, historically, it was white people who were slave owners, and there were black slaves who were slaves because they were black. It is just a fact. There was a system of white supremacy. White people had all kinds of advantages. All the laws were written to benefit them and not the black enslaved people. What is going on? Okay.
every single exhibit, I have a list of every single one. Like people migrated.
Yeah. By the way, folks, slavery was one of the biggest economic engines in the United States in early America, 100%. It was one of the keys to the economy, not only in the South where most of the slaves were, there were some in the North, okay, but it was also a key to the economies in the North who did trade based off slavery. So, of course, there were a lot of exhibits on it. It was very important in American history. It had vast consequences that still affect us today. So, okay.
From Cuba because white people bad. Not because of Castro. Yes, no, it's in there. That's what I'm saying. You don't actually know what's in there. Do you know that when you walk in the front door, the first thing you see is the gay flag?
Okay, that was a good one to end on. See, this is what we've come to, folks. We've come to lunatics like this coming on these shows and just openly doing historical revisionism. Trying to shut down the conversation, without even addressing the points that are being addressed. Okay. Grace Abrams, thank you for your comment here. Grace Abrams, I know you said I was biased about Arabs. I want to explain I am brown. If you are brown or black, you face a lot of open discrimination in the Gulf. I believe that, Grace. There is different people of different groups do pretty bad discrimination. I am not defending what you may have experienced, but I'm all I'm saying here, Grace, is that your experiences are valid. That being said, there are billions of or maybe not yeah, there are billions, I think, of Arabs in the world. And the actions of some Arabs does not reflect, because Arabs are human. There are some Arabs who do good things. There are some Arabs who do bad things, just like in every single culture, society, race on earth. So I understand how you may be processing it that way. Okay, I understand that's pretty demeaning. Okay, that you would be called those things. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying your experience, but my point here is that that could be that might be sort of a bias you have against and billions of people because of what you've experienced. And again, understand it, but that is not an Arab thing. Okay. As a matter of fact, that happens in America. There are people. Um, so Grace, I'm not doubting you on that, but again, there are billions, and I understand. Okay, I do. Maybe we can talk about this later or privately or whatever. Um, Okay. You have to understand, Grace, though, the language around Arabs, especially nowadays with what's happening in Israel and stuff, is pretty demeaning and pretty dehumanizing. And yeah, okay. All right. Uh, well, yeah, exactly, Alan W. Poor white people. Why doesn't anyone feel bad for us anymore? We're so oppressed. Oh, hilarious, hilarious. Okay. Um, Macy, I understand. Okay. Again, industrial employment slaves. Yeah, Macy, that's true. Grace Abrams in Sri Lanka, when women return from working in the Gulf, they have some. They have some from the mental health unit meet them because they return pregnant and suicidal. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Welcome, Papadaka. Welcome back. Why can't we just say what happened was bad? Why is it so difficult for these people? Yeah, I know, Papadaka. I know it's difficult for them because they feel some sort of kindred spirit with slave owners. I don't know. I don't know. It's beyond belief. Um, Alan W., Grace Abrams, I'm sorry you've had those experiences, but you can't come to the conclusion that all Arab Muslims are bad. My mom and her side of the family are Muslim, 100%, Alan. And Grace, I do want to say to you, like, I understand why you think that way. Okay, I understand if you've had those experiences, that trauma, your brain will cause you to start lumping people into groups. That is sort of a natural human thing. We're tribalists. We start lumping people into groups. But some of the kindest people in my life, some of the people that are my greatest friends are in fact Arabs, and they have never done any of those things. All right, just like some of the kindest people in my life are white people who have not been slave owners, but there were definitely white slave owners. Okay, and so I don't. So just be aware of that, Grace. Please don't think I'm downplaying your trauma because that is traumatic. Absolutely, not defending you. Okay, I mean not defending what you've been through. But also still love you, Grace. Okay, you're still one of the regs and stuff. Okay, I know, I understand what you maybe have gone through. Okay, so all right. Okay, Jay Shadow. Arab women have said the same thing about U.S. soldiers. Yeah, yeah. Um, uh, Yeah, thank you, Tiago. Yeah, Grace, your feelings are normal. Your suffering is valid. It's hard to feel the right way or have a sober view. I can't imagine your position. Try to do better. Believe in the good of people. And I know that'll be hard to do, Grace, because when you have a trauma like that, I got to tell you, Grace, there are neo-Nazi groups in the United States. And if anyone's ever seen the movie American History X, Really good movie. Highly recommend people watch it. One of the things in this movie is that there's this gentleman who is attacked by a black man. Okay, and it happened. There was a black man who attacked him and did a crime against him. And from that experience, he became a Nazi and started thinking that all people that are brown, black are inferior and are justified in doing violence against them. Okay. And you can, while I see how trauma might cause someone's brain to go that way, that does not, that is, it's sort of an inaccurate, it is a sort of misconception that our brain creates. I'm not downplaying your trauma. But I think it would be liberating for you too to think, you know, um, differently about that. But I know it's not that easy, Grace. Yeah, Alyssa, the curb scene is pretty brutal. Um, okay, guys. So all right, folks. Let's go. Let me do my last little bit here, and then I will end for the day. Okay. Um, Grace, that is fully possible. Okay, that is definitely fully possible. I will say, Grace, I am a gay man. One of the stereotypes of Arabs is people from Arab is that they're all homophobic and stuff. I have found that not to be true. I suspect it would be similar for people of color who are mistreated and such. It may be true for some. It is not true for all. But again, I don't want to downplay what you're telling me, Grace. I'm acknowledging it. Okay. Um, and yeah, okay. Don't listen to me about this. All right. I don't. I am not. Okay. We'll end there, folks. Okay. I'm going to let me do my bit. You all know what's coming. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. I think you all know what's coming here. Um. Let me do this. Okay, folks. Oh, just want to make sure I can see the chat while I'm doing this. Okay. We all know what I'm about to say. All right. Chainbreaker, correct, London. Okay, guys, you all know what I'm about to tell you. First of all, we need to free Palestine. Okay, first of all, free Palestine. I'm going to be adding that on from now on after watching that horrific video. Free Palestine. Second of all, um, we are living in well, first of all, okay, you need to keep resisting. Okay, we're living in a fascist moment in this country. The easiest way you can resist is to think for yourselves. The easiest way to resist is to think for yourselves. That includes when you watch me. I can get things wrong. I am a human being. Okay, please doubt everything I say. Do your own research. Look these things up. Do not rely on what I say. And that's the case for everyone you listen to on the internet. But the easiest thing you can do to resist fascism is to think for yourselves. Second of all, we are living in a pretty horrific fascist moment in this country. As many other countries too are experiencing a rise on the far right. Okay, the fascism comes from a society that is suffering and is sick, where people no longer trust their democratic institutions and they're suffering economically, and so they turn to more radical ideologies such as fascism and scapegoating minorities to sort of make themselves feel better about the current situation. The way to fight fascism is to enact major reforms. Major reforms. You cannot stick in the center. If you stick in the center, the fascists will keep walking all over you. So we need major reforms, and we all need to push for major reforms to make our country a democracy again, make it more responsive to the needs of the people, both economically, socially, and in every other way. Lastly, on the wall behind me here, okay, on the wall behind me here is Chainbreaker. Chainbreaker is a sword from the Civil War. The legend here is the legend of this sword is that it was responsible for the death of 7 slave owners who were white, by the way, because it was a racialized system in the United States. And I have this back here to remind people that there have been many people, not only in the United States and around the world, who have fought and oftentimes died for some of the good things we have. Okay, we're no longer living in feudal Europe. We have some amount of freedom. We have made some gains. We cannot let those gains go to waste, people. I cannot emphasize that enough. We cannot let the gains of our ancestors go to waste, and we must always fight for a better future. Okay, you all got it? All right, folks, you all have a good night. I will hopefully come on tomorrow, and I'll see you then. All right, bye-bye.